G'day and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the less knowns and the players that are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name is Hef and I'm joined by my co-host Dos. How are you? And Kay, sorry, obviously. How are you, boys?
Jeez, almost forgot him.
No, sorry.
Come to that.
Gone. I'm actually trying to rejig the title as I'm speaking on the stream because I've left it up as last week's title, but I think our listeners will understand that we were a bit rushed for time because, Dossie, you've just come back from footy training, mate.
Yeah, mate, I'm a bit rattled. Yeah. The string is tight, can confirm. Hamstring awareness as I walked in here, so... Yeah, we'll see how we go tonight, but yeah, it could be a late withdrawal.
So as you were leaving training, you sent us a message saying you might be a little bit late. You didn't bother having a shower, mate. So I got you a towel and some deodorant here,
thanks,
just
mate.
for you. Just
what about my? I need some ball deodorant as well from there.
Definitely, it's a Manscaped ball deodorant. That's for sure. I don't know if I want you using mine though. I don't think we should be sharing that. So I think that should be you bring your own stash of that. I think. But
speaking of, aren't you joining me this Thursday?
I am. I was going to leave that to the review section, but that's all right. We'll jump straight to that. We got our 200th review, so I will be joining you at footy training on Thursday night. It's in the calendar with my partner, so we've organised it. Yep, so she knows it's happening. So it's all there. It's happening. I'll be at training. Kenilworth, come out and have a look if you live in the area.
How are your strings going to go, mate?
We'll see how we go. Hopefully they don't last too long because then I won't have to keep continuing going to training. So
hopefully I can actually get up for this one. I'll tell you what.
What's your plan of attack? You're going to go straight from work, get a couple of laps in beforehand, good stretch.
Absolutely.
Maybe even stop off at Chemist Warehouse, get some, DP.
No way. I'll be rocking up, probably in my gear, straight onto the track. A couple warm-up laps, a few kicks with some random if Dossie's not going to be there, and then straight into training. That's just what it's going to be. I feel sorry for Kenilworth just taking the Mickey out of the club a bit, just turning up like this. So
you're going to be playing the full season.
When you front up round one in the Kookaburras games, they won't be laughing.
Yeah, I know. So we'll wait and see what happens. They might be laughing at my football ability. We'll have to wait and see there. Anyways, let's talk about some football. So on the weekend we had the AAMI Community Series. We watched 3 games each, so we're going to report back to you on those. But I think the big news at the top of everything, boys, is we killed Paddy Lipinski. We absolutely destroyed him.
But he's back in for round 1.
Yes,
it's only a flesh wound.
Yes,
yep,
only a flesh wound, exactly. So the good news is he will be back for round 1. So the only bad news is we're all planning for him to go big on the weekend and then repost the video and get like a few more 10,000 views. Yep. But it wasn't to be.
We've still got round 1 when he drops a 40 touches.
That's true.
Not a 40 points, 40 disposals.
We can rehash the video then. So anyway, he's playing round 1, so that's good news. But speaking of good news, boys, Manscaped are looking after our listeners once again, providing them with a 20% off discount code. That is Keeper20. So if anyone needs to get their hands on the greatest and best in below the waist grooming, they can head to manscaped.com and use the code Keeper20. Now, Kaz, you're actually wearing your Manscaped t-shirt tonight. You're repping the brand.
Yeah, I wish I got a large, if I'm honest. I'm just maybe with my lack of pre-seasons, just made this show a little bit tighter than it should have been.
The pipes, mate. That's nice and tight around.
I used to, but now I'm just not even. I'm the 3rd biggest piped person in this house.
No, there's still got some girth on those puppies.
That's definitely quite thick. Anyway, so Manscaped are on board now, boys. I'm going to put it to you on the spot here. What's your favourite thing about the Lawnmower 4.0? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's just that nice close trim.
Yep.
You're
talking about the advanced skin-safe trademarked technology, which leads to no nicks and a smooth finish.
Yeah, that's another way to put it. That's exactly what I was going to say. I took the words right out of my mouth there.
Kays, what's your favourite thing about the Lawnmower 4.0?
Do you want me to read off the script?
There's no script there. Just read it. Say something about it.
I'm going to be honest. Do you know what I really like? I like the USB charging ability.
Do you like to plug it into your computer?
No, but it's just very handy because, you can basically just have a USB port now anyway and you can go bang.
That's true. There's also power points usually in most places as well.
But sometimes you forget.
That's true. Yeah.
Sometimes you forget
as long as you got a USB cable, you can chug it in. That's
correct.
A very good point.
You could be out on the road,
Yep.
traveling salesman. Oh, geez, I need to trim this up and into the USB on your computer and bang.
My favourite thing is the light that comes on when you turn on. You can just see what you're doing down there. No nicks. There's no nicks anyway because it's the skin safe technology.
Is it that dark down there?
I've got poor lighting in my house, so need that light. It's very, very essential to the below the waist grooming. But anyway, support for the podcast comes from Manscaped, who are the best in below the waist grooming. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their family jewels. Get 20% off and free shipping worldwide worldwide with the code KEEPIT20 at manscaped.com. So if my math is correct, that's 8 million balls using Manscaped. I'm just reading that off the thing. I keep saying that every week. But anyway, we love Manscaped, so get on board.
We do.
All right. Let's get stuck in to the match reviews with the AAMI Community Series, and I'm up first. So I looked at Carlton versus Melbourne, and the first player we have to talk about, the Oracle is back. Matthew Kennedy. Kazers called it early.
The Oracle never left.
Never really left it. There's been a few calls.
It's a full-time job.
Bring it out, mate.
We'll talk about Jared Berry in a second later, but
I've got a reverse take on that.
We'll talk about that one a bit later. But Matthew Kennedy had 135 points. He was just an absolute beast out there. 70 CBAs, floated between midfield and forward, kicked 2 goals. The big question is, I guess, Kaz, I'm going to let you answer because you love the guy a lot. Are we just waiting for Walsh to get back, or is it sustainable?
I think it's sustainable. So my thinking with this is, Walsh's injury, they're saying 4 to 6 weeks, but it could be, half a season. We don't know by the time he gets back, fully up and running. The other thing is if Matthew Kennedy keeps playing as good a footy as he has been the last 2 games, who's to say that he's the first one out? Who's to say it's not, oh, look, George Stewart, we need to move you somewhere else? Or, why is he the first one to go? I'm not necessarily sure that's just the case. And if, he's doing all the right things and it seems that Michael Voss loves him, I can't see why he, would just relinquish his kind of role if he's playing it really well and Carlton are doing well.
I do get the feeling that Voss does love him. And even if not, he's not... Because he still wasn't the starting main rotation, but when Walsh comes back in there, who's to say someone like Hewitt doesn't come out, or just another one Zack Fisher's rolling through there a fair bit at the moment as well. He just comes out.
Cripps could be injured by then.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, there could be an injury by then. He's going nuts. So yeah, Kennedy looked real good on the weekend. So he's someone we should definitely be penciling into our drafts because he's going to be available in a few leagues out there, I think. He's going pretty late in drafts as well. Speaking of Zack Fisher, he had 100 points. He's been such a preseason tease for years. I think he had another 87 last week in the practice match. Had 100 points this week in the actual community series. But look, he was mainly up forward, but did have a bit of CBAs. Actually, he was floating up the ground a little bit as well, so it was getting around a little bit. But is he a tease, or is this the last 2 years he's just been so interrupted with injury he hasn't got a good run of it? Come with a new coach. If he gets a consistent run, do you think he's a good scorer, Dos?
I quite like Fisher, just the way he goes about it, and I enjoy watching him. But yeah, he's never really hit those fantasy straps, apart from when he did get a little bit of a run in the midfield in his younger days, and he had a couple of patchy sessions where he scored all right. I'm kind of got a bit of stocks in him. I'm not expecting too much, but I could see a reasonable score from him.
Could you see a 70 average as a forward?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
There was an article, I reckon, maybe a month ago, where Voss actually talked up, that he wanted to, give Fisher a bit more responsibility in that Carlton side. So, another one, sometimes just pays to be the coach's favourite. So, could be worth having a go at him for sure.
I think Voss just likes rewarding players that work hard, and I think he's going to give them the opportunity.
I found it weird that they wanted him just to play as a forward. I think it was under Teague, and he was just like, okay, he basically just, I think, put his head down to train. He's like, all right, I'm going to learn forward craft. And that's basically how it came out. I think with a bit of added midfield time, my thoughts on him is definitely growing.
All right, next one. I can't believe this guy's name is here, but Mitch McGovern had 89 points. There's been talk all preseason as a defender, so coming in as a lockdown defender for the anti-vaxxer who left. What was his name again?
Liam Jones.
Liam Jones, that's right. So the thing is, I thought he was just going to be playing as a key defender, lockdown, boring, not being able to score, but he played more as an interceptor because Lewis Young and Oscar McDonald played as the keys, and he kind of just floated in between, took 6 marks. Majority of them were intercept. I think he had the most intercept marks on the ground, more than Gawn, I think it was, on the night. So that was pretty impressive. The commentators were saying that was in the third quarter, though, so he might have overtaken him, I'm not sure. But yeah, he was just really good. I thought he might play that more lockdown role, and Wiedering was out as well. So if Wiedering comes in, there's less chance of him playing a lockdown role. I don't think I could go too early on him, because it's only one game we've saw. And I think he had 45 the week before. So I wouldn't be I'm not talking him up as a big thing, but just maybe a late flyer listed as a forward.
He looks way better as a defender.
Yeah, absolutely.
He looks... It's oh wow, a McGovern can actually play as a good defender. Who would have thought to try this when he was a bit younger?
Jeremy was not the worst. Jeremy wasn't the worst scoring defender in his peak. He was okay. You'd take him kind of 19th, 20. Yeah, you take him in that kind of round.
I'm not poo-pooing it at all. I think it's he looked awesome, like you said.
I think listed as a forward is the kind of reason why I'm intrigued more than anything.
My mate, I love the fact he's a forward, but my major concern for his scoring is Wiedering coming back in, because we saw Wiedering finish off, or actually had a really good season last year as that, more attacking tall defender. Does he just kind of just go back to his 2021 ways, and then we see McGovern kind of just jump down a rung and potentially has to, kick McDonald out of the team, and then he plays that more lockdown. That's my concern.
I just don't think Wiedering plays the third tall role, which is kind of what he was playing here. Like, I think he plays your centre half back, your kind of general back there. Whereas I think McGovern's someone who can just float across and take a few marks and get a few kicks that way.
I'm not anti. I'm just concerned. I just don't think we'll be expecting the 90 point. But as you said, I reckon a 70, mid 70s is not out of the question.
Well, yeah, okay, you take that as well as a forward, because you're going to get him really late in drafts as well. We'll fly through the last few because they're pretty obvious. So Georgie Hewitt had 87 points, attended most of the CBAs. He probably didn't score as freely as he did the last week, but he kind of scored at like the rate he would have last year, but then couple that with the more opportunity he's getting at Carlton. So I think we saw like a base level of George Hewitt, and if that's the base level, like, you'd be pretty happy with that, I think. Listed as a defender, he's going to be awesome this year. And Tom de Koning, he played mainly up forward but had a small amount of ruck time. I think he was just a bit underdone in the preseason, but he did some amazing things when given a chance. He had a big grab, chase down tackle as well. He's just a special talent. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, huge grab. Just special talent. So I'm not sure if he pops this year, but if not, then next year I think he's going to be good to go. Any more comments on de Koning?
Did Silvani get injured in this one?
He did, but he's going to be okay apparently.
So I was checking the app and it didn't say he was injured or out or anything, but he did. Was his low time?
He was listed in that article that came out today about who's going to be right for round one. So I think something happened to him. I can't actually remember the specifics, but I think
39% time on ground.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy that I've been really eyeing off this preseason. If he's given that backup ruck role,
the thing is, they're playing Pitnet as kind of the number one. Essentially, and then de Koning up forward, but then de Koning went in there and just it was probably the last quarter blitzed it. So
that's concerning. If you were keen on Silvani, just wait and see what the teams are like. Because I was keen on him for a very late flyer. So
wait and see. I think you still can take him. There's no risk taking someone like Silvani as a flyer. So still give that a crack. Just with Melbourne, apart from the obvious guns, 2G4P players obviously, but we got Alex Neil-Bullinhood, 78 points. I like him as a forward. He just plays pretty high up the ground, gets a bit of a touch up there, and had a bit of a wing role at some stage last year as well. So I don't think he's going to be getting that back, but there's a potential to go there if someone does go down. So I don't mind Neil-Bullen there. Bailey Fritsch is so interesting. 76 points after kicking 5 goals. He kicked 6 in the grand final and only scored 87. So the thing is though, he didn't go under 80 for the whole final series because he was just kicking bags. So if he'll get a few bags next year, so he'll be okay, but just probably not enough to trust consistently. Now Dossie, Jake Bowie.
Oh yeah.
Had 61 points. My issue with Bowie is his disposal was not great.
Oh, come on, mate.
It wasn't.
The guy taking kick-ins must have a crap disposal.
I'm not. It's just he didn't put, it felt like he was under pressure the night. There was no Salem either, so that's probably the way he's taking kick-ins. But there were a few shockers in there. So I'm not.
Good signs is what I would say.
He's definitely got the fantasy game.
Taking the kick-ins with Salem out of the team. Good signs.
He's definitely got the fantasy game. I'm just a bit worried if he does kind of butcher a few kicks, he might not be in there too long.
Dude, this is a guy that there was an article written about him last year, and I don't think he's changed too much from last year.
Let's just put it down as one
bad
bad game.
of Whitfield was the article. Okay, I'll link it to you.
Don't worry about the Jake Bowie taking kick-ins. He's not going to do it. Bowie. So
what'd you say? Sorry,
he won't take one kick in this year.
Yeah, no, not with Salem. Salem and who else takes them all? The centre back. I can't. Stephen May.
Can you just read read the headline there?
Bowie and his bullet. Okay, maybe it was just one bad game. No. Yeah, who kicks it like Whitfield? Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, didn't do it on this week.
How many kick-ins does Whitfield take?
Yeah. Well, that doesn't matter. I'm more having a crack at his disposal on the night, which was, I think he went around 60%. So anyway, maybe it was just a bad night. I don't know. Let's move on. Tom Sparrow. So we've been talking about him as a midfield forward option. He only had 54 points. He was still part of the midfield rotation, and Viney was in there, but Viney he played low time on ground. So I think listed as a forward, someone like Sparrow is still worth a punt, but it's probably not as fruitful as we were thinking last week. But we did flag that Viney wasn't in there. So yeah. The last one I had a look at was James Jordan. He had 38 points from 78% time on ground. He's firmly playing outside on the wing, so not getting that inside time. But the positive is he's in the side, so yeah.
Yeah, well, at least we know that wing at Melbourne's a high-scoring role.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they had Harms running on there, and then obviously Brayshaw, who doesn't score that well there. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But James Jordan's probably not looking to be as kind of big as he was looking at this time last year.
Nah, Sparrow's looking like he's going to be the one getting that role.
Yeah, it does.
Sucks because, Jordan's obviously a high points per minute guy.
That's it. All right, let's move on to Brisbane versus Western Bulldogs.
Yes, let's. We'll start off with Jared Berry, who we mentioned before. Had 86 points, Heffen. Look, last week I did think that I might have called him the bust of the preseason.
You did.
I may be cooling on that take a bit, but however, I'm still not convinced he's going to be as explosive as everyone is suggesting. So he's the first half, he seemed to be really dominant in the midfield and CBAs and stuff. And then it was kind of the second half where it looked like Jared Lyons, who had a very quiet first half, kind of came into the game more in the CBAs. Didn't necessarily balance out. I think Berry might have had 3 or 4 more than Lyons. I'm just a bit concerned about, well, not concerned. I just think Lockie Neal for me is the lock. Like he's that genuine. He'll be basically every centre bounce.
CBA,
He'll be every CBA.
Yeah.
And then kind of what I'm seeing, what I think, we haven't actually seen Dane Zorko in that team either. Now, I suppose the issue is with Zorko is that Kadeem Coleman got injured on Friday night, whatever it was.
I believe.
Kadeem, whatever. He got injured. He looked like he was going to be that running half back. Did that mean they just put Zorko back straight away because they were talking about that, or does someone like James Madden kind of get that going now? I'm not sure, but Zorko's still probably going to run through there. I kind of see that maybe Lyons and Berry are a bit of a switch on and off the bench kind of thing, or up forward. Similar kind of players, and I think they'll do the same with Cam Rayner and Zach Bailey. We haven't actually seen all of those players play together in the team at one stage this pre-season. So, look, I'm a lot more keen on Berry than I was probably, November last year.
Yeah.
But I'm just a bit concerned. I don't think we're going to see the massive scores that some people were predicting last week.
There's just that kind of role change where he's probably a bit more outside last year, firmly on the inside this year. The thing with Zorko is interesting because we thought, you said Kadeem Coleman went down, Madden went down with a hamstring, I think well.
I think Madden's supposed to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Wilmot's out for round 1. So I was just thinking maybe Zorko might actually fulfill that halfback role if that was the case, because they're running out of a few numbers there. But yeah, there's also Noah Answorth, who's been playing right, who can go back.
He played on the wing.
Yeah, he can go back. But anyway, move on.
But Charlie Cameron had 96. This was basically a Charlie Cameron special. Why you love him. Just locks himself into probably an F4 or 5, which he does in most teams each year. Kicked 2 goals, had 20 touches. Just looked really, really good. So
I want to... He finished last year with like a run of 98 in his last 5.
Yeah.
But 82 in the trial last week, 90-something in this one. It's like a run of like 7 games being a gun scorer.
Yeah. He's going to be that guy that you kind of get excited about, and then he'll come out and he'll score your 40 and you'll be like, damn,
I'm not believing it yet, but it's just like so...
It's nice. It's nice.
I own him like every year for that reason, that he pops up and kicks goals every now and then. And it's nice when he goes on a run, but then he's just as likely going to run a 5 games where he'll score big and then won't score above 50 for the next 4. So, yeah.
I just wonder if that 1 year could be inbound, where it's like, how Dan Butler for 1 year popped for an 82 or whatever
maybe.
he got. I don't know. Just let's wait and see. Watch this space.
Okay. One guy I'm pretty keen on with forward status for the Lions is Dan Mcstay. He had 71 points. He looked really dangerous. Clunked some nice marks and kicked 2 goals 3. So hit the scoreboard 5 times, but could only convert twice. Look, the thing I like about Mcstay is we know that Eric Hipwood's going to be out for the majority of the year, and Joe Danaher mainly gets most of the heat as the key forward. So it frees up Mcstay to be the second key, and he plays that role perfectly. He can get up the ground nicely. He's really strong overhead. Obviously, knows how to find the goals too. But look, he averaged 91 in his last 5 games last season.
99 last week as well, before this game.
And 71. So for me, he's available in our league, our home league, Hef. And
you need forwards.
I need forwards, so he'll be high up on my priority list, because I think he's a guy that, I've done a heap of different drafts this year, and no one's taking him, at all.
No one expects him to play after mid-year.
Exactly.
That's it. You can pay him for half a year. You won't. It's costing you nothing. You'll probably get some pretty solid scores, and you can just drop him to the scrap heap when he puts back.
So just make sure you have him in your calculations this weekend for your drafts. Your boy Dev Robb, he had 35 before coming off injured. He was a late in for Cam Rayner, who missed, pulled out late. He looked pretty good early. Kicked the first goal, was around the mark, and then,
massive first quarter, then just went missing.
Yeah, and then went missing. But obviously was injured. The Lions have said he's going to be right. Will he be best 22 next week? I don't think so, considering he wasn't best 26 until the late call-up. But look, 3rd year, so, things could pop. I'm still quite keen, in a league like ours, have a late flyer on him. I think he's dropped down a lot of people's boards just because of the strength of Brisbane's
He was a keeper for me for pretty much all the pre-season up until basically last 2 weeks. And then he's just gone. Yeah, unfortunately.
And lastly, Kadeem Coleman, as you've corrected me, he had 34 points from 30% time on ground. He was flying in the first kind of quarter and a bit before he injured himself. I was just like, yep, he's going to be a fantastic back forward DPP. The thing is, I reckon now, a lot of coaches might have seen the injury and they've gone, nah, not going to worry about drafting him.
Yeah.
You can still take him, he's just going to drop.
What was
he's
the
just-
injury?
Hamstring. He's just going to drop down later. But look, once again, take him in towards the end of the draft if people are just avoiding him because they think he's injured and that kind of thing. People are very blinkers on with injuries,
Yeah, I mean, this is a keeper league, so
Correct.
we've got a long time to go.
People are
Correct.
very, very keep blinkers on with round one.
100%, yeah.
Even someone like Fiorini last year, no one's looking at him because they're like, oh, he's not going to play round one, so he's not going to play the first half of the season, so let's not pick him at all.
Yeah.
No one actually factors in that there's a chance there's a few injuries or something. A player like that comes in mid-year and scores really, really well.
Now, look, preface that with saying you've got to have room, like
Of
a
course.
deeper bench. Obviously, you're not going to stash him if you need to rely on an emergency score or you've only got a couple yet.
But with 5 picks to go or something, he's probably going to be in their plans long term, and we can see that, yes, he can actually score in a short period of time. So definitely worth a look. Onto the Western Bulldogs. The guy who really caught my eye was Laith Vandermeer. He had 72. Really liked his game. Got up the ground nicely. Had 20 touches. And for me, it was more of an eye test game. He just was doing a few things, kind of what we've seen from Will Snelling, that nice little connector role. Started on the wing at times as well. So I reckon he's one who won't be high on many people's radars. Just might be worth a late pick. We know forwards are tough to come by this year. So played majority of the games back end for the Dogs.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. I'm done.
He looked lively. I wasn't really sure. I try not to watch games with my phone or so to actually watch the game. So I didn't really realise he was scoring that well, but the few things I saw, he was really good.
Yeah, more of an eye test one for me. Aaron Norton was another one. He had 68 points, was super dangerous and was in all the right spots, just fumbled a lot, dropped a heap of marks. It was a really almost night. So I'm kind of thinking if that's his new floor from now on in is a 68, I'm all in because he played well, but he couldn't have played much worse in terms of fantasy. Just spilt easy chest marks. The Dogs were a bit, iffy with their disposal going into the forward 50. I reckon if that's his floor now, I reckon it's serious times for Aaron Norton.
His splits last year, we went through it on the Western Bulldogs pod. His splits when I was looking at it before he got injured last year, he was like an 80 plus averaging forward, and it was for a significant amount of about half the season, and then gets injured, has a couple of injuries in a row, and just tailed off. And it's I think like you're saying, he could be really reliable.
Big time. Tim English, he had 106. I know he's borderline, 2G, 4P, but I sit and tweet. I reckon he's arrived. He did only have the 12 hit outs, but he just looked just a step above from what he has in the past. Had 21 touches, and I'd be confidently drafting him as either a forward or a ruck. Interesting to see how much time he spends up forward this year. We know the Dogs have added a few different players to their list, Brian, etc. He can kind of float. But look, Steph Martin was there. He just wasn't doing a hell of a lot, and Tim English, took a heap more CBAs than he has in the past. I reckon it is time. I reckon Bevo's just finally got the faith. Maybe it's because he's potentially going to West Coast next year with the contract talks,
getting the trade value up.
I'm not sure, but doesn't matter for fantasy coaches because he's got a serious fantasy game. I loved what I saw, and touched on it last week. But Ed Richards, he continues to impress me. He had 72 points. Liked what I saw off the halfback flank from him. Is he best 22 is my big question. They didn't pick Taylor Dray this week, so that's a big kind of hint. Maybe the times are changing and he's getting in there. The other thing is that Jack McRae was on radio today, and he said he's expecting big things from Ed Richards this year. So
he's got a sneaky gun.
He is, and
he's going to go so late in drafts because he won't be on a radar.
How young is he? He'd be like
22, 23.
He'd be super young still.
Yeah. So he's
22.
I reckon you could get him for an absolute bargain, and he could be an absolute boom player this year.
Well, there you go. Heard it here first. Ed Richards, put him in your black books. Try to take him later in the drafts. All right, Hawthorne versus Richmond was the next game. Now, the first guy, I've been high on this guy all pre-season, and that's Conor Nash. So 96 points. We talked about his back end of last season, and he kind of went at the same level. He was firmly in that midfield rotation on the weekend. Yes, no Tom Mitchell, but apparently he's got a groin injury and he's struggling as well.
Who else missed? Jaeger
Ramirez did too as well. So 14,
only a couple of midfielders.
Well, one of
just
them's
Titchin.
one of them's injured though. So one of them has been talking about playing up forward all pre-season as well. So, but anyway, he had 14 CBAs, bit of time on the wing too. Had 7 tackles. That's the thing I like about him. I love that aggression about him. We saw that last year. He was just running around like a man possessed in there. He rotated on the bench more than forward as well. So I think if he is going to play, he's going to play in the midfield. And Tom injured with the groin. I reckon he continues on from last year early on anyway, until maybe some of those guys get a bit more fitness and get a bit more run back in the legs. But I think early on he's going to put up some good numbers. It's just whether he's got the longevity there. What do you guys reckon? Any consistency there for Conor Nash?
Depends what I still don't know what Sam Mitchell's wants yet.
He's one of Mitchell's favourites.
Yeah,
so
and they could use that big body in there, compared to some of the young kids. They can't run all those young kids in there. I mean, apart from maybe a guy that you're about to talk about. But, I need to see it first. I still think, season proper, especially like you said, if Titch is right, which I don't know if I haven't seen news yet around that, so I'm just not going to believe anything until I see he doesn't play round one. And
I think he plays. It's just that he's going to be limited midfield minutes. That's the talk.
I'll believe when I see it. It's Titch. He's like one of the best midfielders in the comp. So
forward status just makes Nash that tastier. Like if he was a mid only, I'd probably be like, nah, it's just an absolute trap. But I think you're going to get sucked in a bit earlier than you should because of that forward status. I reckon he's a real 50-50 swinger here.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've got Zanks in the chat saying something about me loving Nash. Do you want to read that one out, Kaz? I can't see it from here.
I don't think Nash plays much mid. Personally, I think you play
at a full strength. No,
you've got Titch, Jager, you've got guys,
Warple.
Younger guys. Yeah, you've still got Warple in there, which I think Newcomb, Chad Wingard, who Mitchell also really liked playing in the midfield when he was the midfield coach. So, yeah, I don't see it.
Zanks is asking, I've got pick 4 in the draft on Saturday, and am I going to take Nash with pick 4? And the answer is no.
Who are you taking?
I'm not putting that out.
Give us a little.
I think there's 4 very good young rookies that are going to go in the first 4 picks. I think.
Okay. You're always rebuilding, so
yeah, we're always rebuilding. Flag 2 years ago, prelim 2 years ago.
So you'll be taking Josh Ward.
Prelim 2 years ago.
You'll be taking Josh Ward.
If he's available, I'm happy to take him. Okay, depends who's going there. Yeah. All right, that's Josh Ward as next player. Great segue, Case. I wish I even noticed that. Lock him in for round 1.
Lead a horse to water.
Lock him in for round 1. 91 points from 67% time on ground as well. So I know you love your time on ground. I saw your eyebrows level pick up there. Yeah, pretty happy with that one.
Like my time on
just
ground.
another one that was firm in the midfield on the weekend. We did talk about a few out, but yeah, he was quiet last week, but looked really hot this week. Just composed, comfortable in there. He's a good junior fantasy scorer, and I think long term is the main thing we'll play for is the keeper league. He's going to be a good one, I reckon, in terms of fantasy.
Last week, I kind of felt that McDonald had the edge over Ward. Like just eye test wise, I thought that he kind of got to a few better spots. What was the difference for you between the two? Because obviously McDonald's still one who's going to be on a few coaches' lips. Yeah,
it was just more opportunity. He was just at every centre bounce, or it seemed like he was at every centre bounce anyway.
Yep.
And from the get, I think he even got the first clearance of the day. He was just on. So yeah.
Funny thing with the time on ground for him, obviously big bodies are going to take time to adjust to be around that more often, but big tank for Josh Ward. So
yeah, right.
He did his rookie profile this year, boys. Obviously a huge junior scorer, but one of his biggest assets is his running capacity. Like I think we've already heard Jago O'Meara this preseason saying like he can't keep up with him because he's that quick in the track and runs all day. So
I hope that doesn't bump up to 3 in our draft after people hearing that. So shut up, Toss. Anyway, let's talk about Tom Phillips. He had 93 points. Just did his thing, like running up and down the wing like he usually does. Did this last preseason though, and he played in the midfield a bit last preseason, but I'm just not sure if we can trust him again. That's all. So I reckon he's better than his ADP though, which is 242. So
I think I said in the Hawthorne, preview, like fantasy coaches are not going to forgive him from being their savior as the centre forward DPP last year. Yeah. So I reckon he's just going to be bumped down all these orders, and you're going to get someone who's pretty serviceable, especially in a keeper league. Usually, you got to run deep for depth. I reckon he's definitely worth a pickup.
Who knows if the role, the game plan that Mitchell's running just suits him better on the wing, because we've seen him average 90 plus for the Pies playing that role multiple times. So. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the Rucks situation at Hawthorne. So we've been debating this all pre-season. So I don't think we got any closer to getting a finalised answer this weekend, to be honest. So Ned Reeves was starting as another one ruck, then copped the knock early in the third quarter. Then Lynch came on. So Lynch didn't play the first half, and then Reeves, they kind of swapped over. So Lynch did look really good when he came on, but he also looked like completely spent by about the halfway through the fourth quarter. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it was a hot day down there as well. And McAvoy only went there 3 times. So they're looking, I think, they were doing a full dress rehearsal to see who goes in there as their number 1 ruck, because McAvoy wasn't going in there at all. I think Reeves still slightly goes ahead. So he had 15 out of
But you
CBAs to 8.
don't think come round one they're just resting McAvoy and then McAvoy's just number one?
Oh, maybe they could be. I don't know. I probably don't think so.
Was
I think
McAvoy any good up forward? Like, did he present? Was he,
Nah, not really.
Is he useful up there is my question.
He was like as useful as he was last year.
Okay.
Like not that much different, really. I don't know. Like I think, I don't know. Maybe they are trialing those two and then going to chuck him in there for come round one. But I don't know.
Dossie, you'll like this.
Ooh.
Max Lynch, 1.02 points per minute, baby.
The PPM was good. Yeah, like he scored more than Reeves as well. My issue is
He just does more around the ground. It just depends on the hit outs and whether how highly they value them. You know, like a Sandilands type level height. I mean, whether he can get that hit out to advantage that benefits the midfielders more than a guy that can go around and get possessions.
And if the plan is to play Lynch forward and McAvoy in the ruck, then I think it's going to work out for him. But I just don't think it is because I don't think either of those guys have the tank to be the number one ruck these days. And even to split it doesn't look like they want to do it that way either. Like, I think Lynch and McAvoy play very, very similar roles, like as the ruck forward.
And like
Reeves can kind of just
pointed out, this is twice in a row Reeves has been the preferred starter. Like last week in the trials as well, he started there, got more centre bounces, all that. So
he only came on because Reeves went off. Basically, Lynch did. So it kind of felt like they were just going to try to run Reeves out if that didn't happen. Yeah. So, but I don't think the knock was serious. It was just like, let's not risk him. Let's just
So I think our question is answered in that Reeves is ahead of Lynch. Even
I think Lynch, if he was to play, he'd probably be the better fantasy scorer out of the two.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to play with Reeves. So, Liam Baker, moving on to Richmond. So, he had a big game, 110 points. So, he was forward early and kicked 2 goals. Ran through the midfield later on as well, had 3 CBAs there, all in the second half. 26 disposals. He looked really good, but I'm just not sure if he goes this big in season. Dossie, I know you're a big fan of Liam Baker, and you probably liked what you saw or what you heard on the weekend. Do you think he can maintain this, though, come the season proper?
3 CBAs? Nah.
Yeah. I think, forward, he was going to
I love Liam Baker. I love that he has some thirst and he rats around. He's a bit Rory Laird-ish with his like ratting. You know, he gets in and around it. He really loves ratting around. You like that, Kate? But
a little chortle over there.
But just, if he's not in and around the ball lots, it's going to be hard to build that score.
That's true, yeah.
Funny thing with Baker, he's got back centre status in Ultimate Footy.
Can't gain anything else.
Yeah. Can't gain anything else. And like he's the opposite of what you want. Usually you want the forward guys who are playing back, but he's the opposite. So
that's frustrating too. Yeah. That bumps him down a bit. Yeah. Speaking of guys that are in there a lot though, Trent Koch and ratting around in there. 104 points. So he had just a lot of talk about him moving out of the midfield. I just don't think that's going to happen because he had the second most CBAs. Playing as a very inexperienced Hawthorne midfield though, so I don't know if we can take too much out of it. But look, the old dog still got it, I guess, so to speak, after last week. But he's not someone going late in drafts, and I still think that's warranted because he doesn't have a lot of future in keeper leagues, and he could be moved out of that midfield at any moment and just be like a defender at some stage. So
risky.
Yeah, we'll wait and see with that one. Now, I'm going to talk about Noah Bolter, but it just kind of ties into the Richmond forward setup. So he had 93 points, and Bolter was amazing. Kicked 3 snags, really impressive snap too. Like, he's just a really skillful player. But what I noticed is it actually seemed to free up Rewalt a bit as well, having that third tall up there. So Lynch, I think, is always going to cop the number 1 defender, and he was a bit more quiet. But I think late in drafts, if you're looking for a forward, Rewalt could be a go as a result of this, just because he'll kick 2 or 3 goals a game, or every now and then he'll pop up with a bag of 2 or 3, maybe even 4, and he could be a good just streaming option or just a loophole option on the bench as a result of this, because Noah Bolter takes a lot of heat off those two, I find. So yeah, that's just all I had from that. But I don't know if I'll be backing Bolter as too much of a fantasy score.
I quite like Bolter.
So do I.
Long term, I said it ages ago when he was first playing as a defender.
I like him as a defender.
But the thing is, he used to go into the ruck a couple of times, and you're like, gee, this guy's so athletic, and he follows up. And now that if he plays forward and like he's playing really well up forward, he could be that guy that if they don't roll with the Soldo Nank, we could see like a Nank Bolter duo, which I think probably makes more sense in modern footy.
Yeah.
And then that's when I'm super excited because he's a guy that can take a clunk, and then he looks really active as a ruckman. So
yeah, the thing is they did play Soldo in this game, but it was hard to get a gauge if that was going to happen. So you'd be taking a bit of a punt if you think that's happened, but it's definitely a possibility.
Just his athleticism is off the charts, Bolter.
Yeah. I'll just move through the next few pretty quickly. So Toby Nankervis, he had 19 points, just the number 1 ruck, so safe option there for your rucks if you're looking for someone outside that top 5 where it gets a bit shady. Dan Rioli had 87 points. He just continued that halfback role from last year. Just super good value listed as a forward this year, so he's someone to really look at. Now, Hugo Rowsmith is one I actually do want to discuss. So he had 86 points, and Vlosten was out, so let's not forget that. But I think on the back of this, he gets very close to a gig come round one. I know they have to move like 3 people out and bring someone else in. I can't remember who was missing, Vlosten was missing. But he looks super comfortable off halfback and just loves a +6. So quite often he was just standing in the pocket and then Short would kick out to him, and that happened like 3 or 4 times. So just a real cheeky +6 there. Then just like Richmond, the way they kind of set up to go forward, they kind of chip around a bit, and he was really getting involved in that too. So if he can get a gig, I reckon he's probably right now the 22nd man, like just in there. And
God,
if he can
I
get
wish
a gig,
Vlosten played.
yeah, so you can get a gig. It's a good idea.
Yeah, and especially in this game where the defenders scored really well,
Yeah.
all of them. So these guys, I don't think, 86, 87, I think Short, 2G for P, but he went massive as well.
Yeah.
All these defenders carved up.
Yeah.
I did want to get your opinion, but you said Ralph Smith's pretty keen for that +6. I saw him last week. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
but
just like it gets involved in the chip around, but yeah, just loves getting into
it's
spots
so
where he can
hard
get one.
though how well they're going to go. But yeah, forward status.
I kind of
both of
feel
them.
a bit worried, to get something from Richmond playing against Hawthorne, who are going to be weak. It was like watching Sydney versus North, who are weak, and everyone for Sydney just fucking tore it up.
Yeah.
Same as like Freo versus
Yeah.
West Coast. All the teams that played the probable weaker sides this year just scored for fun. So
Yeah.
a bit worried about some of the numbers.
Oh, I wish we had more preseason games to watch. It sucks. The last two I'm going to talk about. Jack Ross, he had 81 points. Played on the wing mainly. Had 12 wing attendances. The little stat
nice.
for you. Looked a little lost in quarter one, but then got going later and got some CBAs in the second half. Looked way more comfortable when attending the centre bounces, I thought, but I just don't know if he gets a spot in there. But I think at the very least he can get a spot in the wing this year, but I'm just not sure if it suits him for fantasy, that's all. So, yeah. Josh Gibkis is the last one I talk about. Just more of a cheapie and classic, I think, is going to be. But he played well, and he's way more attacking than I thought. He's pretty bold the way he kind of flew at the ball and tried to take grabs and stuff like that. Could be a good third tall type, I think, down there, Gibkis. So,
What does he play? Can we go back, like, while we're going through our next things? Could we go back and look at your notes on that in the rookie guide? I just want to know a bit more about his junior fantasy because, like, I don't know too much about Gibkis.
I don't think it's
What does he
big.
play like? Is he key?
He's supposed to be a key, but like, yeah, he's 193 centimetres and 195, I think. But yeah, like he just looked way more like athletic than I thought he would be.
But is he going to play?
He's got good
I
skills.
heard a lot of good reviews from that game. I need to go see.
They bloody love him there. So I think.
But like,
yeah,
is he really going
yeah.
to play? Like if Losten's fit,
He's close.
They've brought Robbie Tarrant in.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not no knock on him
Yeah.
long term. I'm more like
He's close. I don't know if he's in round one, but he's very close.
Did he make the Oracle's best 22? That's the question.
no, he did not.
No.
Did
Purely
Hugo,
because of that reason.
did Hugo Rasmus?
No, definitely not.
Oh, damn. Yeah. So I don't know. He's going to get close, but I don't know if he does. So yeah. Hold on. Someone's asked for Gibkis, a bold ball call, smooth ball call. I think
Smooth
is it.
ball.
Yeah. That's fun. I'm not going to call. He's not going to be in round one, so I could be wrong there. But only just though. He's very, very close. But there's a lot of players for Richmond that are very, very close. So yeah, we'll move on to Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. We'll come back to your Gibkis review in a second. But yeah, let's move on to the next game.
Yeah, right. So I covered this one, the showdown,
Yep.
the early showdown.
Yep. A lot riding on this one.
Just quickly, I noted the centre bounce attendees of the first. I know, obviously, the numbers are out now, but the first opening centre bounce, and guess who was in there? It was your boy
Schonberg.
Schonberg.
Yeah,
So
he
the
was.
opening centre bounce was Robb, Sloan, Laird, and Schonberg, and Lysette, Wines, Butters, and Willem Drew. So a couple of interesting names in there, but I'll kick it off just talking about Schonberg because he was fantastic and looked awesome in this game. I'll have to look at what he ended up scoring.
67.
but- Was it?
Yes.
Because
He
he
really
looked
tailed off in the
seriously
second half.
good. Yeah,
Which is
I
my
mean,
concern. I think he's going to be a great player. Don't get me wrong. I've said this all along. Great player, just not sold in the fantasy.
Yeah, I was sitting on I was looking, saw he had like 50 something at half time, and I was like, oh, this is going to be juicy.
And the thing is, like we were talking about in the off season, like if he increases those midfield minutes, like you guys had no questions over the tank. You thought that would build. I was a bit concerned about the tank. If he increases those midfield minutes, then he's going to score well. I think he was up to 86% or something like that. He was on for the whole game, and he just looked like he couldn't run it out.
I think the problem in this game, if I don't know if either of you caught it, but Port just had the ball the whole time. So
In the
you-
second half.
second
you,
half.
you
Second
look
half,
at
yeah.
when he couldn't touch it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you look at the fantasy scores and they're skewed so much towards Port. It was just
they took him out of the CBAs as well.
It was also
toward
an
the end.
ugly game
Yeah.
to watch in the way it was played.
windy.
So it was very windy and it was down the line, kick and catch between the two posts. So Wasn't a great watch, but yeah, Schonberg early signs obviously tailed off, but he was looking like at the start of the game. I was like, this guy like break out 100%.
I watched the first bit. I watched the whole game, but I was kind of in and out of the room. When I was watching, I was not looking forward to Tuesday night when you guys would just be talking up Schonberg. But then he reverted to time, so it was all good.
Yeah, so like you're saying, I think what was happening is like they gave Berry more of a shot, who, you know, he's not in their plans. So he only ended up with 13 CBAs. Berry had 14. So I actually, you know, I'm still very, very keen on him.
You're probably going to mention this, but with Laird getting injured as well, that kind of gives him a good run early, I think.
Exactly.
As well,
so Laird obviously hurt his hand. I think it's going to be like a month
6
plus.
weeks, 5 or 6.
6 weeks on the sideline. So great news for Schonberg.
Oh, that's sick.
Great news for a couple of Adelaide mids probably. And another one I want to talk about, previously 2G for P, but he's back on this one because Matt Crouch obviously did not play last year, so he technically counts. He was outstanding as well in a game where, like we said, the Crows barely touched the ball. What did he get? 31 disposals?
Yep.
Unfortunately, it was his stock standard kick to handball ratio.
Yeah, the fantasy scoring wasn't
21
quite up there.
handballs, 10 kicks. But yeah, with the wind as well, he couldn't grab. He only had a couple of marks, didn't tackle. It's preseason. Matt Crouch is not going to tackle, but impressive signs from him. Now, from a rookie perspective, long term, this is another dynasty play from the Crows. But Josh Rochelle, we've mentioned it last week in the trials and stuff, but he looks awesome. Like, he actually scored well in this one, 90 points from 3 goals. Don't get too excited. He's not going to be fieldable very often this season at all. He's a small forward essentially, but long term, they're going to push this guy in the guts, and yeah, he looks the real deal.
I didn't even reckon it has to be long term, to be honest. Like, I reckon this year he'll put up some okay scores, I think, but I reckon by his 3rd year he'll be one of the better.
That's long term to me.
One of the better. He'll be one of the better mid forwards, and I don't think he loses that forward status anytime soon either, which is why he's so appealing, I think.
So with Dawson still out in this game, they played a lot of Mitch Hinge on the wing.
Saw that, yeah.
And he looked really good early. Like, he was one of the top scorers when the Crows were actually in the game early. Didn't finish scoring too well himself. He finished on a 46, but his start of the game was very promising. It's so hard with such a crap game in the end from the Crows not touching it and stuff. But anyway, I was tempted to dabble. You know, I think he might have. Okay, so he scored 46. I want to look at his first quarter stats.
It was interesting because last week they rolled with Saligo up and down that wing a lot more. And I think Saligo was barely, I think I saw him at 1 centre bounce on that wing. But apart from that, I didn't really see him on there as much as well.
Hinge had 24 in the first quarter. So, you know, when
he kicked the goal. He kicked the goal real early, so that bumped him up. But yeah.
Yeah. So the other players that I want to talk about, I mean, I know he's 2G for P, but your boy Keys was playing a stack forward, and I think that was just to help out the rotations. Probably with
he's that kind of guy.
Laird going down, he's probably just going to be back in there. Yeah. But long term, I wonder, Keys, would you be, you know, especially because he's going to get the midfield role early, you'd imagine, would you consider, in that early patch where he's carving probably in the midfield, would you consider selling before Laird comes back, given that he played so much forward, or do you think that was just pre-season, you know, playing him forward for the pre-season, see how it goes? But he was playing quite a lot forward.
Yeah, I would say it's a bit, give the guys a go. Like, really, someone like Sam Berry going to come in and have 14 CBAs during the year? That's my kind of thing, especially if they've got them all up and running. Other things, how many, like, did Sloaney have a lot in the CBAs as well? Because,
Sloaney,
you know,
20,
you've got
Crouch,
to assume,
22.
You've got to assume that Sloan's only going to be, you know, a proper midfielder for another year or two, maybe. So, you know, maybe it's a bit of a worrying sign for this year, possibly for Keys, if that's the route they go down. But
he had 0 CBAs in the first quarter, and that's when they rolled Crouch, Sloan, Schonberg, and Laird through there. So
I'm not concerned.
Okay.
I'm not concerned.
Fair enough. Moose, he was a bit disappointing, boys.
Played full back in the second half when I was watching. I was like, what's he doing at full back?
Also, this guy wouldn't have scored well. Just the eye test. That Gallant dude looked actually like quite okay.
Yeah, Gallant was fine.
Yeah. On the Port side of things, Robbie Gray popped a string. So, I mean, you're not going to be drafting him. But
right for round 1, apparently. No muscle damage.
Wow.
Yeah. They just
He
cautious.
must be very aware.
Yeah, just cautious with him.
Very aware. So anyway, obviously we have to be aware of the scores in this because of how dominant Port were with possession. But a couple of players that stood out to me, obviously we can talk about a guy who's going to be 2G for P within probably this year alone, and that's Zack Butters, who had a ton of CBAs, racked up 32 disposals, 8 marks, 107 fantasy points. look, he's in for a breakout year, but almost borderline 2G for P already because we know that he's going to do that. Connor Rozee looked bloody awesome. Do you guys think he can finally take it up to another level? Obviously, they're versing the Crows at the preseason game. They had all of the ball, but can he take it to another level?
I still think he's going to be used a lot closer to goal in real life when the real season hits. That's all.
I don't even know if he had that many centre bounces in this one.
I don't think it's more that. He's just pushing quite further up the ground than he was. He was just going, just running up
centre bounces. Yeah. It wasn't used too much, but it's just his
still more than usual, though.
It's just his forward craft, though. If he's more consistent, that's all he needs to do, because even as a forward, he just gets around the contest, kicks bags,
he's talented. Some football experts have him better than Sam Walsh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough said.
I remember.
Enough said.
There was a bunch of defenders that did well. Bonner's really standing out to me. Is he? What did he average last year?
He late 60s, but then he finished hot.
I see him continuing that this year, and I think you were asking me, should you keep him?
I did end up keeping him.
Of course.
I did end up keeping him.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a really ripping year this year. He just looks to be one of those, a new user for them coming out, and they started going to him late last year. I think that's going to continue.
Well, pretty much when Hartlett came out, it was kind of him in. So could be the new distributor off halfback there.
So anyway, I wouldn't trust DBJ getting 100.
Although he did it last week as well. Went big.
Gee, it's risky. The guys that stood out as well, Burton, I think he's already maybe 2G for P, but he's awesome. The other one, Lachie Jones, looks to be taking a huge step up. He looked way more composed for a second-year player than I thought he would. So I'm almost willing to dabble late in a draft for him now, thinking that he might actually put up some fieldable scores this year, even though, once again, being wary that this was a very lopsided disposal affair.
Yeah, no, I think he surprised a lot of people on the weekend.
He just looked the way it was the eye test as well, even though he scored 86 as well, but...
I only watched the second half, but
Lachie Jones.
He definitely caught my eye.
Yeah. All right. Is that all for that?
That's pretty much it. Yeah. Josh Sin looked really good, but he only played the second half.
Yeah.
So
for the classic people out there, do you reckon he debuts round one? Do you reckon
he didn't play. He didn't play enough, but he looks classy.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we'll move on to the Essendon versus St Kilda game. So Jai Caldwell is the first one I'm going to talk about. So he had 98 points, 67 points in the second half once Merritt came off though. So there was no Shield playing either. So, but he felt like he was like the main midfielder in that second half.
Can I ask, before getting in, why were the scores so bloody low in this game? I thought it hadn't updated and they'd only given me the 3/4 time, because there was one ton. Jai Caldwell obviously with 98, and the rest were like 80s and 70s.
Across the weekend though, it felt like there was a lot of low scoring. I think it was just not trying really. It felt like really bruise free this game. Like no one was actually going in hard or anything like that. Like someone like Jack Steele, I think, still got 5 tackles, but he probably chucks on like another few more on top of that. Like. Yeah, I don't know. But on Caldwell though, he was like the main midfielder in the second half. So the thing is, I'm just still not sure where you sit with him. Like when you note those midfielders that were out, Dossie, you're pretty damn hot on him at the moment. You're thinking he's going to be at least 50% average CBAs and he's going to be in there.
Well, he was getting, I know he got a lot more when Merritt went off, but he was still getting CBAs in the early stages. I was looking at, it was pretty even spread. It was like 3/4 or something. So it's his disposal, marks and tackles. He covers all of them. From what we've seen, it's a small sample, I know.
Yeah.
But 24, 4 and 5 in this game. He's still working his way back, and obviously we're a keeper league, so we've got time to nurture these players through their career.
Yeah.
And just long term, I'm pretty excited about him, and I think just the way he can play that forward mid, he can play that role, and might have the status for another couple of years.
Yeah. What do you think, Kaz? You're the Bombers man.
Yeah, I'm keen. From what I've seen, when he's playing the role he should, he's exceptional at it. Yeah. I do worry there's maybe a few too many mids in the Essendon side, but look, we always seem to have one injury or two, so I'm not concerned. But as you said, long term.
And sorry, I know he's a mid at the moment. I'm saying he might pick up that status as well.
Hopefully, I own him. We'll move on to Peter Wright. So he had 89 points. Essendon and Rucks were on top all night though. Wright was really good in there. 70 hit-outs, kicked 3 goals too. I think it's just another player that's going to provide a lot of value this year. Someone like a Dan Mcstay that you're going to pick up a little bit later. And
he had some great scores last year. 2 metre Peter.
Yep, I'm on board. 2 metre Peter. If he's available at the right pick, I'm happy to pick him up. Archie Perkins. Now, we talked about Kayser's bus and Dossie's coach. All right.
Double decker.
Double decker, that's it, with a trailer. Archie Perkins is firmly in my station wagon. All right.
It's a great one to have.
So, look, he was just good without starring, like mainly forward with 5 CBAs. Just really good at ground level, can take a grab, so he's good in the air as well. He's just going to be a gun, this kid. Might not be straight up this year, but I reckon he's going to be one of your third-year breakouts.
The Bombers are stacked, K's. Yeah. Exciting times.
It is exciting times. Just Archie Perkins. He'll have forward status for another couple of years as well, I think, so he's going to be a good one.
What I like is he's scoring pretty well, and he's a forward, and he's probably going to keep forward status next year, so you've got a couple of years of just some good scores.
Yep, I think so too. Yeah, I'm happy with that. One of my rookie listers as well. I love Bombers players at the moment. I'm all aboard them. Caldwell, Perkins, they're all my boys.
Get you a membership.
I need to get one, actually, yeah. Sam Draper, 75 points. Just a real solid performance. Just good around the ground. Firmly on top in the middle too. He won the hit-outs against Marshall 24-18 as well. So, and I think 2 metre Pete had 17. So the Rucks were just absolutely dominant. So it was good to see. Now, have you guys ever heard of Nick Martin before?
Of course I have.
Supplement. I think he's only joined the list last week for Essendon.
Him and Tex got signed.
Had 57 points in a half of football. So 42 points in the third quarter, playing on the half-forward flank. Just, one to watch on the back of that. So I'm not sure how close he is to actually debuting, but absolutely freakish in terms of fantasy scoring from that guy. So, when I first saw him, I was like, who is this guy? But, very, very good performance in fantasy. A little bit of thirst, I don't think he didn't kick a goal either, so he did that all through like posies. So,
doesn't have a profile picture on the app yet.
No.
He's building.
Exactly. All right, Mason Wood for St Kilda. He had 86 points. He's been playing between the wing and half forward this pre-season. 11 kicks, 2 handballs, 2 goals. He's a great talent, can do some absolutely freaky things and has the potential to score well from time to time, but I think he's still going to wind up in the forward line, and I just don't think he'll be a consistent option, but just wanted to look at late just in case he can pull out a few of these scores, I think.
Because they were saying he's like an amazing runner.
Yeah, he's got a big tank. It's interesting to see. I just think he might end up at forward still, that's all. Josh Battle, Dossie, one of your boys. He has 78 points, just playing defence.
Oh, yeah.
Took 6 marks, so he's taken some good mark numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Some good mark numbers in the pre-season. Couple kick-ins. I didn't actually monitor whether he played on or not. He's a bit prone for kicking from the square.
I can check for you, mate.
But, it looks like a reasonable option in defence. So, I'm happy with Josh Battle.
With the forward status.
It's finally coming.
With forward status, yeah.
He should be playing this role for so long.
What was your call on the pod?
Oh, in terms of forward players that have that defensive role, he is this year's Nick Hind. Okay, you heard it.
No,
this year's Nick Hind.
His face.
He's not. Daniel Rioli is this year's Nick Hind.
Oh, jeez.
Nah.
Anyway, I think that I like Kaz's call better, but anyway.
We'll see.
Seb Ross, can we just
wager?
Oh, here we go.
We'll see. He doesn't take Rioli doesn't take the marks that Battle will. Okay.
Rioli's going to
Nick
get
Hind's a real good mark taker.
I think he just means in terms of fantasy scoring, but
I'm talking. Sorry, he's not a run and dash. I just mean the average jumping based on a role change.
Roger.
Yeah.
Okay. Seb Ross, disregard what I said last week. He wasn't very good. Ryan Burns, he got some time on the wing, but again, just the scoring didn't come. Low time on ground as well, 64%. Played up forward a bit too.
Thought he might be the guy that kind of takes Zach Jones's role, and obviously did not.
No, didn't go in there. So it was interesting. There wasn't any real standouts that did jump into that, but St Kilda
just read that for a second.
Up
at the bottom, very bottom.
Kicking play-ons. He played on twice. That's good.
Two kick-ins, 2 play-ons.
That's what you want. All right, Dossie, try to get through this one without crying. Although we know Lipinski's not injured, so it's all good. So we'll just remember that when you're reading out Lipinski's notes. Okay.
Okay, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it here. So obviously Lipinski went down very early. Very sad.
Very sad.
It was super early in the game.
Did you get any really abusive Twitter DMs?
Oh, lots, yeah. plenty of tags out there. Thanks everyone for that one. But no, he started the game pretty, I wouldn't say hot. We were sort of flagged last week, maybe a few handballs too many for Lipinski, but he had 5 handballs in the first quarter before going down with an ankle injury. Looked bad, but obviously he's going to be able to play for round 1. So it was kind of just that internal role. Hopefully not going to affect him too much. And he was in the opening centre bounce. So the opening centre bounces for that one, if you want to know, Lipinski, DeGoey, Crisp. And on the other side, Cornelio, Kelly and Tom Green, which I'll get to in a little bit. Very exciting stuff. But the first player I want to touch on in here, can we just give this guy 2G for P right now? Nick Dacos, before playing a game, the first ever 2G for P. He's too good.
I'm happy to do it.
He's too good.
I'm happy to do it. I think I agree.
Give it to him now. Let's get that. Have you got the?
Well, the thing is, there's no point. He's going to go first in everyone's draft,
yeah,
in top ups and things like that. no one's going to be giving up for a long time. So there's no point talking about him on the podcast. Like, there really isn't.
He's way too good.
Are we happy with that case?
Yeah. Is there a button?
There isn't. Not at the moment, sorry. But
that's how he's broke the breakout track.
Yeah, doesn't work. Already. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this. That's all. But no, I think with 2G, 4PM straight up.
He scored 99 from 31 disposals, just doing whatever the hell he wanted down back, just floating around. Thirst. God, this guy's like the definition of observable thirst. He wants the ball all the time, throwing his arms around, running for 1-2s.
They were saying,
he does everything.
I think I heard this on the Traders, but they were saying that that they tried to, like, Collingwood were actually saying that they tried to move him into spots like where they could rest him on the ground, and he just kept finding the footy there as well. Like, it's just an absolute magnet.
God, it's so good to be watching him, and you're going to love having him in your team.
I'm actually going to tweet it out now that Nick Dacos has just been made 2G, 4P for the Stars.
So some other players, the other Dacos brother, surprisingly, there were two Dacoses were just on fire. So he was looking great on a wing. They were even talking through the broadcast that basically had a word to the coach. He was like, where do you play your best footy? And he said, on the wing, want to play the wing. And that's where he's going to be playing. So he was obviously playing a lot of forward last year after a pretty good year the year before, playing on that in a bit of that wing mid role. So exciting times for owners, I would say. He scored 81, had the 22 disposals, 3 marks, 5 tackles. Now, I don't think, Collingwood's probably not going to be that great a team this year, so it's probably going to be an up and down ride if you're playing a wing, but he oozes class as well. He is a Dacos, and there was times a couple of years ago when he was playing that wing, I was so high on him playing that role, and I thought he might actually get a bit more inside mid-time, which I was very excited about, but Josh Dacos, he's going to be bouncing back this year for sure. Good. The other players I want to talk about, look, Tyler Brown had a lot of midfield time early. I think this was just some practice match.
He did it the week before and hardly got a touch.
Can I just jump in on the CBA analysis? Sign up as a member if you're not to check those out. Last 3 games he played last season as well was way above his season average too. Different coach, obviously, back then. But
you're talking about Tyler Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tyler and Callum, I think, both had CBA bumps in their final 3 games. I know Tyler was injured, but the 3 games before he got injured, he was like increasing his CBAs then too. So
anyway, he had 17 touches.
Scoring didn't come though. Just
low time on ground, 12
CBAs.
I personally think it was more of just give him a run in the trial game, in the practice match. But
I don't. Well, even if he does, I just can't see him being a fantasy scorer. So
and obviously because Lipinski went down early as well, he didn't start in there. So anyway, I think that's just a bit of a trial run, and his brother didn't come on until the second quarter, so that was when Lipinski was ruled out. Ollie Henry, I think there's a couple of us that are keen on him. He looks really nice, just quality-wise. A stash, not going to score you too much this year, but he's just so smart as a forward. And Jack Ginnivan also just looks long-term like a guy. Still not. Both these guys just aren't going to do much for you this year, but if you're in a dynasty and you're stashing, that sort of thing.
I'm definitely going to say Ginnivan at some stage this year. I'm definitely going to pronounce that wrong.
I was surprised on the broadcast. Yes, it caught me. Caught me. And probably just one player to mention as well. I know a couple of us are keen on this guy as well, but Trent Bianco. Look, he didn't start on the ground, so he's probably a guy that right now isn't in best 22 calculations. But when he came on, he just looked really good again. So it's a tough one. I think again another guy you could look at. Just wait till he gets a gig, and if a role appears, like he could be a good scorer this year if the role emerges. So if like a defender comes out and they're like, okay, we're going to try Bianco down back, he's a guy that you can pick up off your wire because I think he'll be able to score if he plays in a solid role.
In the trial match last week, he was playing that like small, medium forward role.
Yeah.
And it was just, he was like locked in the forward 50 and that's not a good place to be locked in.
He's probably another couple of years away, unfortunately. Just in terms of role, I think he could do it right now if he got the role.
It's just dawned on me that we've probably got a few new listeners in the off season that haven't listened to the podcast before and never heard of 2G4Ping before and understanding what that means. So it'd just be probably worthy to note that 2G4P means too good for the podcast, which means there's no point talking about them because they're going to be kept in all leagues, they're going to be drafted in all leagues, they're going to be hard to get your hands on.
We talk about shit players.
Yeah, we only talk about the lesser knowns and the ones that are going to bring value.
And obviously guys that, and just to mention, that's why we still talk about the Matt Crouches and stuff who have had one off year and somebody may have dropped them in a shallower league as well. So
or just might go a bit later than usual in drafts as well. So anyway,
that's all I had on that one. But also guys, just there's a lot of defensive stocks out at the moment for Collingwood. So Kruger's out, Nathan Murphy went down injured, and Maynard got suspended for the first 2 rounds. So probably interesting to note in terms of maybe just look at who's going to get those roles for the first couple of weeks.
Just on Kane Corns, he reckons there was nothing in the Maynard hit.
I haven't actually really seen it. I'm going to
He's
say
definitely
that.
hit the ball
clobbered it.
first, but it was very, very late.
clobbered
Like he could
him.
have actually just stopped and stood on the mark instead of like.
So they challenged it. It was upheld 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's still got the 2 weeks, but yeah.
All right, moving on to GWS. I've got some classic notes remaining on here, so I better not read
Delete
those.
those.
Look, Jake Riccardi, though. Looking staunch.
Yeah.
Real girthy. He's been at the same gym as Hef, I reckon.
Yeah.
Honestly, looks like he's put on some serious
Pipes
weight.
are
There's
us.
some
Just been
genuine
teaching him a
pipe
few
watch.
things. Teaching him a few
Genuine
things.
pipe watch there, but his work rate, I really like Riccardi as a fantasy player, as a player in general.
I thought you were going to say as a person.
As a person, yeah, just the lot.
On an emotional level, I think we vibe.
Just a lot. I just really like him as that super late player in drafts. He always sneaks around for those +6. He works so hard up the ground for him. And yeah, he looked really good in this game. So did it turn into a scoring score? I don't know. I've been really working on my eye test in this one. I'm going to have a look now. Scrolling down, 79.
Solid.
Kick
Happy.
3
Take
goals.
that, yeah.
Kick 3 goals, 7 marks. That's what I'm talking about. He just gets up the ground. So, yeah, really excited for him. And thinking Hogan didn't play as well, he's probably going to have that freedom to just go up the ground and do what he wants. So.
Yeah, there is actually talk of Hogan being right for round 1.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
Hogan can play deep, so
That's true.
they can let Riccardi go up the ground, and I think that extra player just takes a better defender off him. So
Yeah.
very excited. Few pretty big names in terms of, I know these guys are big in classic, but there was just that mixture of Bruce and Flynn again, which still kind of didn't get super answered in this, but we know now Bruce is suspended for round 1.
Only 1 week though.
Bruce, though, just looked great. And I'd probably, if I was Leon Cameron, I'd be looking at Bruce and being like, gee, this guy's ready to go. So he started forward, though. Flynn started in the ruck. Bruce started forward. I still don't know what the hell to think with this ruck mix. All I'll say is, though, Bruce scored really well, 85 points, only 14 hitouts, but when he was around the ball, 6 marks, 6 tackles, he did it all, and he physically just looks great and like trim, just fit and everything. So good signs from Bruce.
Do you reckon there's a chance they just play in tandem though? Because like,
absolutely,
Flynn's got a great set of hands. You could play him
Absolutely.
forward as well.
But I mean, he scored 85 in this one doing that.
Yeah,
Does
that's
he
what
do
I
that
mean.
every week? Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's tough. It's still so tough, but I wouldn't be spending a high draft pick on him still.
Yeah. Okay.
The big news from this one for me was Callan Ward playing in defence. Finally, we've had a shuffle of the magnets from Leon. And
There's been talk about this for like 5 years, I reckon.
oh, yeah. But look, you can't move. He had 30 touches and 11 marks in the defensive line for Cal Ward. Now, not only is it exciting for what it frees up for our midfield, but Callan Ward now looking like a DPP chance in the first 6 weeks if you've got that set on your leagues. I'd be very excited to be taking some Ward later in the drafts. He's still going to be overlooked by a lot of people, especially those that missed the practice match, was playing in defence.
We might not even see his like scoring go down as a defender either. Like he might just score pretty similar than he did in the midfield as well.
He's
Like,
turned up in this.
He's one of those-
118.
he's one of those players that's getting to the age where they'd probably struggle in the midfield, but score like classic Aaron Hall. You couldn't play him in the midfield, but you could play him on a halfback flank and score
him
even
up.
better. Yeah. So it's going to
Anyway,
be
that was very exciting, but the more exciting thing was that it freed up Tom Green to go
Yeah, that's
inside. Okay, so he was at the starting centre bounce. So the starting centre bounce was Kelly Canelio, who I think I'll just mention right now, he's now already 2G from P as well.
He's back.
We spoke about him for 1 week. He dropped to 120. He's now off again. He's back in the midfield looking awesome.
Surely.
But Tom Green in the guards, very excited to see his breakout this year, and it's happening. The breakout's happening. If Callan Ward, I spoke about it on the GWS pod, we needed one change for him to get in there. Callan Ward's out, he's in.
Juicy.
Yeah. That's a take. That's a hot take.
The last one I want to talk about, the Oracle. I think you need to bust out the ball.
Oh, hang on.
You need to bust it out.
Yes.
For the visual listeners at
You got to
home.
talk into the camera, talking to your microphone for it to actually go to you.
Yes.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Tanner Bruin.
Yeah. So Tanner Bruin, 60 points, but by golly, the Oracle's on something again because he looked fantastic, just so hard at it. And this is one where if you're in your stash leagues, look out. Like, this guy's on my watch list long term because he looks awesome. He's going to have low time on ground probably for this year, maybe next year. But the way he attacked the footy, the confidence, I think I spoke about it before as well. on our previous GWS pod, late last year started randomly getting CBAs. It's like, why are they've got this Tanner Bruin, they're putting in centre bouncers in the finals. What's that about when you need to win a final? It's because he's a future gun and he looks really good already.
Toby Green out for 6 weeks. You know,
Someone's
there's
gonna play
injuries
well.
up there.
Yeah.
Stato, I'll accept apologies via my Twitter DMs if you're interested.
I still don't think he's going to start in too many classic teams somehow, but
Once again, people miss the boat, don't they?
sure.
So it was 12 centre bouncers in this one. Pretty low time on ground. But yeah, looks good.
All right. Let's move on to the next game. Sydney versus North Melbourne. Was that you too, Dossie?
It was.
Oh, it was. You've got my voice for a little bit longer. I'll try and get through this a little bit quicker. So this one was a bit of a wet game. I looked at some of the guys that were starting in the centre bounces again, and the big one probably to talk about, not really been talked about. We certainly mentioned him a little while ago, but Tristan Cherry.
Yeah. Did not see this coming.
The number one ruck in this game. So it was Todd Goldstein playing second fiddle to Tristan Cherry, and boy, did he finally take advantage of that. Did you see the score?
It was big, 120, wasn't it?
It was a 110, I believe.
110.
Yeah. So looks great as the primary ruckman, but we already knew that. He's done it in the VFL. He averaged 108 in the VFL last year. So coming in, we can tell that if he gets that role, he's going to explode. Does he play there? Does he get it ahead of Goldie?
I think he does.
I don't know. I'm so skeptical.
One of them does. One of them does. Is it Coleman Jones or is it him? One of them does.
I think personally, I think Coleman Jones plays pure forward. I think it's between. Yeah.
Well, then I think it does because I think Goldstein plays forward as well. Like
The
they
big
rotate.
question for me is if they were going to do this, why didn't they trade Goldstein and get something for him?
No,
Yeah,
but
I don't
I
know.
think they've just decided.
Plus, Goldstein would have to want to go as
Yeah.
well. Like he probably just wants to
I'm
finish
sure
his career
Todd
there.
really wants to fucking have another wooden spoon to
I
his
think
nose.
I think
Been
he
there
said
his
he
whole
wanted
career.
to stay there.
Yeah,
like-
be a one club player. There's sentiment there. Surely, even if your club's terrible, you want to be part of it. Like just to the end, you want to retire there with all your mates and stuff.
It's been a poor, long slog for Todd Goldstein for many years.
Yeah, he's had a couple prelim.
That's fair enough.
berths and
I
stuff.
respect that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just, yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, I don't know. One of them does, and I think Cherry did himself a lot of favours playing like this in the preseason match. So I think he could be the one. It's between those two, isn't it? Because I think they play Goldstein and someone else this season because someone to kind of work under him and learn from him.
And for me, obviously the stocks are way up. He's just got the forward status in a lot of leagues at the moment. So that's the big thing. Obviously.
Yeah.
So he's got forward status. He'll have to get the ruck status in AFL fantasy at least. I'm not sure what his ultimate one is. Probably very similar because he did play primarily forward.
I'm pretty sure it's the same. Yeah, I don't think he was added on.
So the reason he scored so crap last year was because he had that
sat
forward
forward,
role.
yeah.
And he was touted as being the sort of one to take over. And I think they're keen. Like he was talked about going elsewhere, and he might even go elsewhere at the end of this year if he doesn't get the role. So I think they're keen to give it a crack.
All right.
Wait and see. Jared Polek.
Apparently he's
locked
in for round one.
Jeez, he was delisted.
Yeah, he looked really good actually early. He got injured as well in this game, but 75 points.
Yeah. Mid
20
only though, isn't he?
disposals. Yeah, but I mean, he potentially going to be cheap free in the draft.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
No one
wouldn't be the
touches
worst
it.
last pick for your bench, would it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, exciting times for Jared Polek. Luke McDonald now still Aaron Hall's out of the team, so that role's probably temporary, but it's depending on when Aaron Hall gets back, Luke McDonald's going to be a pretty solid scorer for a few weeks.
Is it Luke McDonald 2020 styles?
No, it's gonna be
It's
that
not
big.
to that extent because you've got Zeeble back there, stealing a lot of the pill.
Yep.
But yeah, it looked good. He definitely commands it back there. So I'd be keen for first few weeks, but the problem is he's only got mid status. So it's kind of like, I don't know.
It's a lot of risk to put on it.
And then if Hall does come back in the first couple of weeks as well, you might go back
exactly.
that way.
You hope,
So-
it's a real.
Yeah.
It's a pick. You don't want to hope that he gets deep. You're not picking him.
Yeah.
Purely on the hope that he gets
Not
deep.
too excited on this. Tyron Thomas, is he?
He's 2G, way 2G.
He's 2G. Yeah.
2G?
Way.
All right. I won't talk about
Get
him.
out. Get out of here, Taryn.
There's not really
Tara.
much else to talk about. It's North.
No, let's move on to Sydney then.
Let's move on. Talking about Sydney, I'll just scroll up here. I don't know I'm trying to remember who's. Heaney technically not 2G for P, but he is.
He's way 2G.
He's
for
2G,
me.
yeah.
He didn't average.
Someone who's
enough.
not is Justin McInerney.
Yeah, Justin McInerney carved up. So he was playing on a wing, taking that role off from that Dawson had at the end of last year. And I got to eat this one up, boys, because I think I was a bit skeptical, but I did say that I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I'm on.
I did flag that you want him playing as a winger and not a defender.
Yeah.
And he definitely playing on that
He,
wing.
he was
all on the
thirsty
wing.
in the bits that I saw. Of that
He got a
game.
CBA and then kicked a goal from the CBA, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
No, he does look really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So jump on board. He's definitely rising my rankings.
He's probably only going to be a defender for 1 year, though, so bank on that.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year it could be awesome. Look, excuse me, Braden Campbell didn't put the score on the board. Looks great long term.
I'm worried.
Yeah.
This year.
This year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched this game and I was just like, he just looks so far down the pecking order in because Blakey was really good. I don't know if you're going to talk about him, but like I wouldn't be, I'm not chipped in on Campbell this year.
Why does Oliver Florent have 105 next to his name? And I don't think he was playing on the wing either. He was playing in the midfield, wasn't he? In the guts.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think the Swans were very experimental in this game with their midfield rotation, which, Florence started inside as well.
Yeah.
And there was a few things. Obviously, Mills came back in this one and only played half a game. So
That's right.
he only played about 46% time on ground. Heaney, who's been talked about as playing inside midfield, only had 5 centre bounces, barely played in there. Also had low time on ground for Heaney. So I think Horse was playing around. And that's why I'm not rising Florent up my rankings.
No,
He's
not
such an up and down player.
Yeah.
So he can have that. They're versing North.
Yeah. But he can be 100 or a 50 and
Yeah.
scorer. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not too keen, but the guy that there's probably two guys that went way up my ranks on this game, including three guys, including just a few Swans here. McInerney, obviously.
Yeah.
The guy you mentioned before, Nick Blakey,
The Lizard.
the Lizard playing
looked
on
good.
a halfback
It
role,
was
which he
amazing.
took over
Really
last
good.
year. I think he averaged around a 70 in his last three or five
With
games.
2 injury affected scores in there.
Yeah, and the other thing, that the biggest thing for me, I was keeping an eye on his time on ground. He had around the 85% mark. And before that, last year, he just couldn't stay on the ground. He'd get gassed. They'd be bringing him off. He'd also had those injury-affected games as well. He looks to be the one. And we talked about it on the Swans pod. I was like, look, one person's going to take this role.
Yeah.
Who is it going to be? I thought maybe Braden Campbell would be the one. It looks like the Lizard is the man.
His new Jordan Dawson, or the new back replacement for Jordan
And
Dawson.
he's run and burst off the back line, kicks every time, never handballs, kicks every single
But he
bloody
pushes
time.
to the next contest as well. Like,
Yeah, and they were
links up
looking. They were looking to handball off to him on the
Yeah.
back. So, yeah, look out! It's the Blakey breakout. this
Decent
year.
peg. I think he went at 75% disposal efficiency
Yeah,
as well.
the
so.
other guy, Dylan Stevens, as advertised this preseason, looked so good.
Yeah, and got plenty of time on the wing as well. I think he was the most attended winger out of
So this guy's a lock for me. Like just coming up, rising up as a breakout. I just don't see a way it doesn't happen. He's passed the eye test with flying colours. Like everyone said, he's put on heaps of size, but he was a guy 2 years ago I was so excited about, and I'm like, where'd this guy go? He's back.
He was impressive, as I thought was James Rowbottom, who I think's been dropped down a lot of people's ranks to after a bit of a rank 2021. But he was another one who was like, oh yeah, he's come back.
That's what I'm just so.
Oh, their midfield mix is an
I'm
absolute
just so
nightmare.
interested in that. Yeah,
it's a
But
nightmare.
Correct. He had a good game, and just looking at his time on ground as well, which is always tends to be low. He had 79%, which and the top centre bounce attendee. So scored 93. I still just am a bit worried about that midfield mix come round one.
Agreed.
But yeah, a couple of good guys to rise up the ranks.
Sydney are just so fun to watch in fantasy at the moment.
But they also played North Melbourne.
That's true. Yeah.
The random, just a random name for classic coaches of the pod and maybe draft coaches who might dabble in this. Paddy McCartan looked awesome as a defender as well.
Yeah, classic. I think he's going to be of value, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But yeah, looked all right as well.
I'll go on to the derby. My God, West Coast are horrible. They are so stinky.
You don't have any arguments from a West Coast fan here.
Poor Dossie.
I just honestly can't see you winning a game for a long time until you get some of
the
those stars
spoon
back.
is firmly ours this year.
Purely, you can't win the ball. That's the biggest issue. The only guy who won the ball for West Coast was Tim Kelly, who's 2G for P, had 110. But honestly, I reckon outside of Gaff, Kelly, Witherden, Hearn, and Nick Nat, from a general fantasy point of view, no one else is relevant. Like,
It comes back to what I was saying. I can't remember if it was who had the West Coast thing, but it's like Witherden for days in your, long term. Just it's going to be down there all the time.
The issue is that you can't really talk about anyone else because there's no one winning the football. Like if Kelly or Gaff don't win it in the middle, no one else can get the footy basically. So it's dire at West Coast. Look, Witherden was probably the pick of the bunch from a 2G from a pod kind of perspective, he had 84, 27 touches, 21 of those were kicks, and he took 6 kick-ins. Hearn took 4, McGovern took 2, so seems to be the preferred option back there. Look, I think with Hearn going out, we've talked about possibly Duggan, but he's injured. So for the moment, it's just game on for Alex Witherden.
Yeah.
Look, apart from that, I'll try and pick some bits and pieces out. Tom Joyce, who I think he just signed today.
Yeah,
he had 58. He actually showed some flashes in the guts. He just showed a bit of ticket. Obviously, he was fighting for a contract, so but obviously can't really recommend him. Brady Hoff, he had 65. He showed some glimpses too.
Wasn't he? I thought he was your boy in our draftee fantasy kit. Was he not?
No. That's Connor McDonald.
Okay.
Yeah. Hoff, he looks good, but once again, if he's your best kind of kid coming through without any experience around him, I'm worried about his scoring.
Bit of half-back role though, and I heard Shuey talking him up pre-game or in the middle of the game. So
once again, it's going to be tough. Connor West has 62. Your boy Jermaine Jones had 75, but they all had moments, but it's just
Jermaine
really,
Jones,
really hard.
like with forward status and with no one able to attend centre bounces for them.
Yeah.
And he seemed to get in there still. If he puts up a 70, he managed to get a 75 in this one. Could he go better in the real thing? Or?
Potentially, but it's a trial match. People don't take it too easy. I just don't see West Coast winning a lot of ball early on in the season, which
I'm
makes
just trying to help you out, mate. Pick
100%. The one guy I want to steer you away from, Sam Petrevski-Seton. He played 57% time on ground, had 36 points, and I honestly did not see him once. So we kind of talked maybe he could be a guy who sneaks into a midfield spot. He was MIA. So
way underdone. I'm still giving him a chance because that midfield spot that he should potentially play when he's fit. I don't know. I'm just waiting. I'm giving him another chance.
I would avoid any Eagle if possible.
Oh, yeah.
That's my gut feel. The Dockers did look good. Obviously, they did play pretty under strength Eagles side, but Will Brodie, 96 points from him. He looks legit. 23 touches, had 8 tackles from only 67% time on ground. Dossie, you'll love that. I was
going to mention it.
He worked back really well into defence, which I haven't seen from his game at the Suns, but he looked really, really, like he wanted to work hard, and I think that's going to hold him in good stead for the rest of the season. Look, highly unlikely he'll be a long-term centre forward from what he's doing this year because he's very much inside. But look, I think you can definitely roll with him this year, and if he turns into that genuine midfielder, then you've got a winner because he can find the pill. You worried?
Just the time on ground. That's it.
There are a few good mids in that Fremantle side. That's the issue.
Do you think this is the role that they're going to play him?
I think so.
They were trialling the role that they're going to play him round 1, which is low time on ground forward mid.
Potentially.
I don't know how the ceiling stays
Nat
like
Fyfe,
that high.
Nat Fyfe's the only other guy to kind of come back into that side.
I'm just the biggest Brodie. I love Will Brodie as a player and as a fantasy player. I wanted the time on ground to be high in this game. That's all.
He didn't play the week before, did he?
No, he did. He carved up.
Okay.
Carved up.
Okay. Well, then, I don't know. I think in Classic he's a lock, but I'm still keen on him because the forward status, you got a free swing. You got a free swing. One guy who spent lots of time on ground who is just super fit at the moment is Matt Tabernar. He had 93 points. He was just a workhorse, up and down, kicked 2 goals, 1. And the delivery to the forwards at times from the Dockers players is very poor. So I've always been a big fan. Mentioned in the podcast earlier this year that if he can get a good run at it with injuries, he's a genuine key position player who is a good fantasy scorer. So I'd be locking him into your sides because he might slide down a few draft orders off the back of a couple average years, but he looks fit and firing. Blake Acres had 92 points. It's probably one of the better games I've seen him play for a while too. He looked thirsty, found 22 touches, just roamed up and down the wing. I'm a bit worried because there was no James Aish or Darcy Tucker, and we've seen Blake Acres not be in their best 22 at times last year. So I think this might be a bit of a pre-season sucked-in game. The 92 will flash up on a few people's radars.
Yeah, like Louis messaged us saying, because I was going off about a few players, I was like, oh, this guy scored this guy scored this, and he was like, there was 139 marks for Fremantle in this game, and he was rattling off the season average from last year, which was a lot lower than that. So this was just such an easy game to score, basically. Yeah. Just marks galore.
As I said, well, when you're playing against such a weak side.
Yeah. Didn't you compare them to North Melbourne?
Yeah.
Yeah. fair enough.
That's
a fair
honestly where they're at.
That's probably something we should just mention right now is that keep an eye in the early rounds. Like, we don't know, West Coast might just turn it on somehow. Yeah. But I'd be streaming against West Coast early.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I'm going to be streaming against them in the early rounds because they might get spanked.
There's going to be some fantasy scores going around those games, that's for sure.
Now, the guy you messaged us about, Dossie, you got very excited about. One Heath Chapman. He had 90 points. Now, I don't know if you heard this on the coverage. This is a direct quote from the chief, Jason Dunstall. He's just snuck up on us. He's just an accumulator.
Yes, I did hear that. I watched this game.
And if that didn't get anyone's attention, I don't know what would. 23 touches.
It's because he was like leading disposals at that time or something. He's like, he's got 15. It's before half. Like, it was like, whoa.
Finished with 23 touches, 8 marks out of defence. I think he's a massive chance for round one. Just the nice size about him. He's that real hybrid, natural third tall kind of thing.
193, I think. Yeah. But he's like slender.
He's slender and lean and looks like he can run. But look, Nathan Wilson's surely going to be out. He played a majority of 2021. I kind of have him on the outer anyway, Nathan Wilson. Look, I lock and load him into their best 22. I'm just not sure whether a 90 is really what we should be expecting purely from the playing West Coast.
Look, I wish that they played a different opponent in one of the trials because he scored. I think he scored 78 and then 90, and it was just the eye test for me. He is a star. This guy's a star, seriously, and I'm just so excited to draft him in my leagues. Like, give me all the Chapman stock.
One I was probably thinking is another year away before I'm actually interested.
Yeah, I think.
But now it's like, I'm back on
because there was like Geordie Clark, Hayden Young, and Chapman. Who's the guy? And I think even for us as well, I like feel sorry for some of the listeners. I think we were like, who should I rate? Is Chapman in there? Is he the one? And just I hadn't seen enough to really give him that, and he has just like blown me away.
I still think Hayden Young's still got.
I still think they're good. Chapman for me is just blown me away. A lot of
mouths to feed because you got Luke Ryan chewing up points back there as well. It's interesting.
And Geordie Clark had what did he have? 82. He looks really good. I think he's going to be a DPP at some stage. He looks into that side. Yep. And our boy Sam Switkowski had 66 as well. He had a couple. I don't know if he was CBAs, but definitely wing attendances and stuff like that. He was around the ball a bit. Only 69% time on ground for Switter too. So he's one forward. Listed as a forward. He's one just to kind of take late. Yeah. He's got something about him,
but I like him.
Gold Coast versus Geelong. I watched the second half. I had some issues in the first half. Dossie kind of helped, so I might rattle off a few names and we can just bounce off, some ideas. It's hard to not start with Benny Ainsworth, 109 points. No. Do you believe is he going to be like a real hype draft pick this weekend?
Well, if our draft is anything to go,
I'm not drafting.
So.
I am not sold. I think he got everything going his way.
Wow.
I think he got everything going his way.
How many goals did he kick?
4 goals, 1. Yeah. Already have 19 touches, 7 marks, 2 tackles. Look, he was impressive, and this is what Ben Ainsworth can do. But then next week, Ben Ainsworth will give you a pretty lackluster 53.
Yeah. You know what? We just see these small to medium forwards in the traditionally in the AAMI series. Just go out and carve. Like, this is exactly what Darcy McPherson did a couple of years ago. You just get those open runs at marks, and the marks are way up without that pressure. What do you get? 7 marks in this game? Yeah, it's just not going to happen in the in the real season.
I still think there's value in because he's best 22 and he'll have a few good games, but is he going to explode? I don't think so. That's my gut feel. Maddie Rau, what did you think of his return game? He managed a ton without a single mark.
That's 2 weeks in a row he hasn't taken a mark.
If you had your draft, a few weeks ago, you probably, if it was a startup keeper I'm talking about here, you probably got Rau super late.
Yep.
I wonder what he's going in the ADPs. I'll have a look.
Where did he go in our mock draft? I reckon Stevie Fizz got him.
Yeah,
I reckon Stevie Fizz got him pretty late.
Close. I don't know. I reckon it was in the 100. I don't know. I'll have a look, but I'll give me a second.
But anyway, what I'm saying is stocks are way, way up after that performance. Looked fit, firing. You can talk about it.
He just looked back to what we saw in 2020. Yeah. Who knows what it will be in the end, but he just looked confident in his body. As you said, fit. Was happy to lay the tackles.
No shoulder strapping was the interesting one as well.
And a bit of a shaved head too. He might be.
Do you want to know where he went? Pick 55 overall.
Wow, okay.
Stevie Fizz.
All right,
That's
thought it
a
was
sick
way later.
In a lot of other like single season ones, he's been going like round 16, round 15 or something.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
But
I'll grab the I will grab the ADP numbers in a second. We'll just have a look. So I'm talking about 2 clicks away from getting them up here. But in the ADP numbers here, Rau has been going at average of pick 30. So wow, yeah, that's pretty high.
people are keen.
Yeah, very keen. Maybe not so late. Yeah.
On another guy who really impressed me was Will Powell. He looks to be the prime mover out of defence for the Suns. Kick-ins. We know that Jack Bowes is not playing there. Jack Lukosius played up forward, and a bit worried about Jack Lukosius' scoring this year, but he looked really, really good up forward as an actual target and as an excitement machine. But Will Powell was quite impressive back there. What did he end up with? 91 points, 20 touches, 7 marks. Yeah, as he said, probably got it a bit his way, but he just looks to be the guy who is probably the next kick-in taker there, which we know can, give you a 15-point bump.
I was really high on him, and then I got sort of slightly worried due to the Lockie Weller inclusion. But in this game,
Lockie Weller was so boring.
Yeah, like Powell's the guy still.
Well, who are the kick-out splits?
That'd be interesting to
It
know.
would be interesting, but
I'll have a look.
Have a look.
The thing is that if you, from just watching the second half, like, it was just like, why was everyone hyping Lockie Weller last week? Like,
No, Weller
yes,
had 4
yeah.
and Powell had 1.
He had the kick-ins, but apart from that, like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my god, he's going to get heaps of ball and he's running, working hard. It was just Lockie Weller.
Yeah, I know, but it is the kick-in numbers, and we've seen scorers become like great scorers because of those kick-in numbers. Like look at someone like Luke Ryan, Stephen May is above average because of the kick-ins he gets.
Yeah.
Like it's still a factor, but if there's not a lot of points kicked, then there's not a lot of kick-ins to be had.
Just Powell had 5 tackles in this, which is pretty awesome for a running defender as well.
Yeah. I'm not writing Weller off, but yeah, I don't think everyone should go super early as people like
There was a big
nuts over.
overreaction from what happened last week. Yes, it's definitely. He's going to be much better scoring as a forward playing defence, but it was a bit of an overreaction, and that's probably about it for Rory Atkins managed to get a game with Jeremy Sharp being injured, and Jack Lukosius kicked 3 goals up forward, only had 9 touches though. So as he said, Dos a couple of weeks ago, like worrying signs if he does play up forward.
Oh, he looked good though.
He looked really good.
He looked awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I'm still high on him being that forward in the future. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried, to be honest.
On to the Tigers. I'll let you talk about Zach Guthrie.
Wait, why'd you say the Tigers?
I mean the.
I was going to say, I thought I was missing a joke then.
Sorry.
How good? How bloody good was Zach Guthrie?
You may have twisted my arm here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think he'll be fine when Tom Stewart's back in.
I didn't get
Don't you
to
say?
see too much of the game, but I did look at the scores when I was putting my son to bed, and I saw Zach Guthrie's name right at the top, and I just
What
pinched
did I
the nose.
say? What did I say though? Last week he passed the eye test, but only got in the 70s, I think, in this stupid trial match. Now it's the real thing. Well, the real AAMI Community Series. Zach Guthrie went to town. He's going off this year. He's plus 15 at least on his average.
He's taking it to another level.
taken it 75 to 80 minimum. Lock it in.
Tommy Atkins had 85 touches. He just seemed to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where he sits if someone I know that it's completely different size, but he roamed a lot around half back. Is he a guy who might be one that takes a hit with Tom Stewart back in? I'm not sure.
He played in defence last year, didn't he?
Yeah, but it wasn't hitting 85.
Yeah,
numbers is what I'm
so like
saying.
you
Nah,
probably
you're not
similar
keen
to
on him. He does this
neither.
every once in a while. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad we agree there. Joel Selwood, you got to talk about Joel Selwood. The old fossil. What did he have? He had.
Did you see the
a
points per
ridiculous
minute?
score. Yeah, 83 points from
Yeah.
37% time on ground.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
That's just next level nuts. It's kind of like Cochin. What do you do with these guys?
But that's what happens when you
should
don't
be
have
dead.
to run out a full game. You can just go spend
true.
all your tickets there and just rack them up.
They should be dead. But no, like from a
Sorry.
fantasy point of view, like no one should be drafting them. But now everyone's going to be like, oh man, Koch and Selwood both have time left in them. I don't know. Risky.
I still had time from late in drafts beforehand.
Yeah, so do I.
Risky play.
All these guys, I've got time for late.
And 2 more to finish off. Our boy Max Holmes. He had a better first half. I think he didn't get too much of it in the second half, but did enough. He had a lot of wing attendances and showed enough, especially with the centre forward DPP.
He got 75, 23 disposals. He still looks like
Yeah, I'll
the
take that.
breakout's on.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I don't know if it's going to be a huge breakout, but I think it will be.
And again, Chris
serviceable
Scott's
as
a guy
forward.
that just toys with preseason. You saw Jordan Clark last year. He just plays weird roles. So I'll be interested to see what his real role is. But
Especially
he
when
has
Mitch
the
Duncan
upside.
comes in and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like what
he
happens
has
with
the upside. But yeah, it might be still a year away.
Yeah, yeah. And lastly, I just thought Jeremy Cameron looked back to his best in terms of fitness and just a bit of hunger. Kicked 3 goals, 1, seemed to get up the ground really nicely. 16 touches in a year where forwards are pretty slim. And, key forwards can be a bit hit and miss, but I thought he looked really good. So just wanted to keep in mind.
What about your boy? You've been talking him up all pre-season. He came on the ground for Geelong, the rookie.
Yeah.
Nick Stevens.
Didn't see much. He got all of his touches in about that second quarter. He was around the mark, but look, good to see him get a game. I think he's probably still a year off, but to me, he looks like a nice size, and he looks like he's doing the right things.
No, he looked poised when he came on, and I was like, the Oracle's done it again here. But then he quietened down a bit.
Stash him away for 2023.
All right, that wraps up all the game reviews for the AAMI Community Series. Now, if you have enjoyed all the work we've done this pre-season, please consider jumping on, supporting the podcast, and becoming a member. We've added a lot of new resources in the off-season. So we've got ADP numbers. We put out a document that has all the draftee fantasy scores and an analysis on each
one of
player
which saying Brady Hoff.
The draft.
Yeah.
93 fantasy points.
Just see that Josh Gibkis only averaged 55.
Yeah.
Great intercept marker, though.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But and I don't think he's going to be super awesome fantasy. That's why I said classic. But yeah, it did surprise me the way he kind of actually attacked the footy though. But anyway, we're talking about membership. So ADPs we added another brand new. I guess we'll call it a resource. But the Pod is now behind on the website for the gold and silver members. And your pre-season show has now finished.
It has finished.
If you want to complete, the year off and want to continue listening to the Pod, you have to be a gold or a silver member of the Keeper League podcast.
Huge news the other week as well, in that we have got for the whole season with us Kyle Holmes.
Oh, no, okay.
Kyle Holmes, who was last year's runner-up in AFL Fantasy Classic, and he's also a 2-time top 10 finisher. So I'm going to be picking his brain, sending him a few screenshots myself of my team before round 1.
And he will be ripping it to shreds, because I listened to this week's episode and he does not hold back on what he thinks.
No, he's a gun. But having him, Stato, the Statesman, who's obviously finished 3rd back in 2018, and then Louis, who's always just up at the top. He's going to get himself a cap or 2 in the future as well. So, and Dossie, who's he's
quite a good host.
He goes all right.
Are you going to show your teams before round 1? Is that going to be a sizzle?
I don't know if that's going to be a feature, but
I'm happy for you to show mine.
We might show yours.
And these boys want to keep their team secret because they think the one player that's going to be different to everyone else. They're actually
good. They're actually good at Classic, whereas I'm happy to share the Oracle.
I think the difference is going to come in your trading something more so than your actual
starting
squad.
That's what Kyle sort of dictates on, preaches, is that it's all about trading. So what we feel is more beneficial is just doing a Q&A, like a big ass Q&A before round 1, sort everyone else's teams out because they don't want to hear about it, especially
That's true. Yeah, they care about their own. Anyway, if you want to get access to that, if you want your team picked apart, we should talk less about Classic on this podcast, but get on board that so you can get access to the Pod, become a gold or a silver member of the Keeper League podcast. Plenty of other resources up there to help you with your Keeper Leagues as well. A bunch of gold members to read out this week. Dossie, I think it's your turn to read out the gold members.
I'll have a go. Where are we? All right, gold members. Thank you very much for becoming gold members, everyone. We've got Jeremy Wine, Alistair Ferguson, Martin Reynolds, Matt LaPlow, Tom Strout, Matthew Kelson, Michael Brennan, Urban Garuda, Peter Kendall, and Stuart Churton. A few familiar names in there, boys.
A few very familiar Twitter names on there as well. So people that get around the podcast a lot, support us, retweet all of our stuff, like everything. So thank you to all the gold members out there.
Thanks, everyone.
You do run the show, really. You're the reason why we do it all. All right, podcast reviews. Now, we mentioned earlier, if we got 200 reviews or ratings, I have to go to footy training. We've hit 200, so I'm going to footy training this weekend out at the Kenilworth Kookaburras. This week at the Kenilworth Kookaburras. If we get to 300, I have to play a game. Is that right?
You'll be playing a game anyway.
If you get
I'm not playing a game.
If you get selected,
He'll get selected when he keeps training each week.
No, I'm not training each week. I'm going to 1, but if 300, I'll rock up to a few trainings and try to get a game.
We're serious operators, mate.
All right. Well,
is it Schnitzel night or something on Thursday nights yet?
I think so. Yeah.
Is there a C grade team at Kenilworth?
That's pending, I think.
So if not, would it be out of the question if I go back to my old club where I'll probably get a C grade game?
What, and verse us?
Yeah, go against you guys.
Get stuff, mate.
Well, at least we get a game that
That's
way.
all right. It's a negative impact, I think.
Yeah, it's good for your team.
Subtraction by addition.
Yeah. Go ahead. But anyway, Luke Letterslate has written a review this week. He wrote, "The big return, just riding this Heffest to play footy again." So we want to see plenty of those. Plenty of those on the Apple reviews, and rate us on Spotify as well so we can get those numbers up. All right, let's get into it. The listener questions, everyone's favourite part of the podcast. Let's do it. on to the listener questions. Thanks, Dossie, for talking through that intro, but that's okay.
I'm very aware of my string, I'm just saying.
Okay,
Robbie
hamstring
Gray.
awareness. Yes, I get it. We'll keep that into the podcast so everyone kind of gets the context there, so that'd be quite funny to listen to. But anyway, listener question. First one comes from Ruxton S. Impact of Laird's injury on the Adelaide midfield, having seen more of the new coach's styles. Oh, sorry, that's the first question. So it's two questions here. Impact on Laird's injury in the Adelaide midfield. We kind of touched on that, Dossie. You watched that game. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it was kind of, like I said, Keys was playing forward, and I don't know whether that was just, playing around or whatever, but it's going to be Keys, Laird, Sloan and Schonberg, I think, pretty much. And a bit of Dawson, as we've said, as they've sort of mentioned in the preseason. I don't, Sam Berry, I don't think is going to be in there, that sort of thing. So. And
the other question is, having seen more of the new coach's styles, which Carlton, Collingwood and Hawthorne players benefit most? K's. Actually, I watched the Carlton game. I think Zack Fisher is going to benefit most from a new coach. I think in that time, probably George Hewitt as well, but he's new to the club though as well. So I think Zack Fisher is going to be one that's going to be plucked out. What do you think in terms of Collingwood, Dossie? Who do you think is going to impact most of the new coach?
I do think probably Josh Dacos, honestly, because he was almost being dropped by keeper leagues. Now he's looking like a great play for the next 5 years.
And do you have a Hawthorne pick, Case?
Hawthorne pick. I think John Newcombe is going to be a good one this year.
Yeah,
it seems to be. These guys that
I think
Sam
the most
Mitchell
CBAs
and I think these guys that Sam Mitchell coached at Box Hill, he's obviously got an affinity with.
Absolutely.
So I think guys like Newcombe, as I said, Nash. I think you've kind of got to bump them up a bit because they're coaches' pets.
Just saw Poulter was emergency on the weekend too, so that Josh Dacos move
that's interesting.
might be he might be heard from there.
Yeah. At Traegs wants to know, is Walters a trap? Now, Kays, you're very hot on Walters last year, trading Hugh McCluggage to get Walters.
Yes.
Is he a trap?
Yes.
Say that again.
I know firsthand.
Wait, say that again.
He played West Coast, so let's just relax. And I think he's not going to get midfield time, and he's only scored well in the past when he's got some midfield time. All
right. At Fife, probably Fife the Knife, I'll probably cut off some of the name there. He wants to know Cherry versus Coleman Jones. Who gets the nod? Who's got your gut feel? Let's just go around the table, Dossie. Cherry versus Coleman Jones. Who gets it round one?
Cherry's the guy that's going to be playing ruck, if he's playing. So, yeah.
But do you think Goldie misses at all?
No. They're not dropping Goldie.
So it's going to be Cherry and Goldie, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah. I think
CCJ can play as well.
Lucky
CCJ.
He's written surely not all three play. So your answer is they all
I think
they
they can. They can if you've got Larky and Coleman Jones up there as proper threats.
Yeah, but then where do you play the other ruckman when?
I don't know, just off the bench. Honestly,
I think
you can still have three.
I think what they might do as well is give Cherry the full reins and give Goldie a couple of rests. This guy's how old's Goldie now? 36.
Oh, he's done after this year. This
so that's what I mean. I think they might just get him Cherry right for a couple of big matchups and maybe get the Cherry right.
The Shane Mumford kind of effect.
A couple of actual real goes in the ruck, because like we saw, he can play really well when he gets actual a run in there. And where was CCJ anyway? Was he just...
He was injured. Got injured last week, but they reckon he'll be right for round one.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
At needs a FURC, Max Holmes' output this year, I think we touched on that. You said about 70, 75. You happy with that?
I think
possibly.
I think both of us are probably tentative just because I think they're toying in preseason. I think this guy's a future stud, and I'm probably going to wind back a little bit what I said last week in terms of super breakout right away, just because, look, we saw it happen in the past with Geelong.
It's only his second year, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to be tentative on that one and say, we're hoping for a 70-75.
At Fantasy Gun AFL was asking, is it worth trading Zeeble and pick 3 to secure pick 1 and get Dacos? I'd say yes.
Yes.
All right, Adam Sargent, with the West Coast team falling apart at the seams, is it worth picking up a defender from them for Draft Classic, as the ball is generally going to be down that end an awful lot?
That always sounds good in theory, but you have to have the right player.
Yeah, someone like Witherden maybe.
Witherden or Hearn, yes, but anyone else, it's just one, they've still got to have control of the ball.
The ball's probably going to be going over the head more than
for you to get
else.
it,
Yeah.
There's a few... The thing is, West Coast is suddenly keeper relevant, immediately, just because we're hitting rebuild. Immediately.
Exactly. There's going to be some youth coming through there.
New players. There's going to be some Jermaine Joneses out there that pop.
Robert McMullen wants to...
Jermaine Jones.
Robert McMullen asks, is Blake Acres worth keeping for 2022? Probably not. No. Then same goes for Angus Brayshaw. Is he worth keeping? So I was actually talking to a listener of the podcast who's got a very good theory about getting Brayshaw into your side this week. And sorry if I'm ruining your strategy here. This person knows who they are. He's thinking there's a contract situation.
Yeah, there is. What,
at the end of the
Freo next
situation.
year?
Yeah, if he goes to Freo, goes back in the inside role, do we see him returning to that kind of midfield beast we saw a few years ago? So, one looking forward to the future. So, there's just a little theory. So, I could make a case for holding on to Brady.
How many inside mids do Freo have them?
Well, I don't know. They haven't really got a proper Chera replacement. Oh, I think it's Brody.
I guess they'll just give Erasmus.
Did we talk about Will Brody?
Yeah,
we did.
Brody,
Give Erasmus
Sorrell.
and Johnson, true.
True. Few
Top
kids coming
round
through.
draft picks, just leave them in the toes for a bit.
Yeah, all right. Simon Evans is asking, Callum Ward on the weekend, 0 CBAs, played across the half-back line. Do you see this as a reflection of Haynes being out, and do you think it's a one-match thing, or do you think it's a permanent role?
I think it's the way that they finally get Green in there, and I think Leon's probably realising that they're going to lose a couple more kids if they don't do this, and they have to do it.
Yep.
Hopper probably didn't play as much midfield as he usually would on the weekend, so that's probably, Tom Green's still not going to get the bulk midfield time. I think it's going to be Kelly, Canelio, Hopper, and that mixture of Green in there as well. But I think it's real, but I never trust Leon, but I do think it's real.
The second part of that question, actually, what does this mean for Tom Green, essentially? So you answered that
Season
one there.
breakout,
So, Craig Morano is asking, Tom De Koning and Jack Ross lock them in for round one. I think you probably do. Jack Ross probably gets a wing spot.
What, just to play? Or?
Yeah, to play.
I'm
Just to play.
still I'm high on De Koning long term, but I still don't think he's going to have a great year consistency wise.
Do you think he just plays round one, though?
Oh, he'll play round one.
Yeah, after that performance, there was probably a bit of doubt, but he played pretty well. Andrew Zanker asked, boys, is Will Brody's value as high as it's going to get this year? So he needs to be traded right now, or is he the real deal worth holding on to?
Forward status, I think you got to hold him.
that for sure.
Yeah. Unless you're getting something really juicy.
Yeah, but that's
in
what I mean.
return.
What are you going to get? And I don't think anyone's going to be willing to pay up.
Especially for a guy that hasn't really played a lot of twos in the last couple of years as well.
Yeah.
Even though he's got enormous potential this year, they're probably not going to get anything big
Look,
to get him.
I'd listen though. I'd listen
Yeah,
just
put the
because that
feelers
time on
out.
ground's still scaring me.
Yeah, okay. Richard Eliadis is asking, start one, bench one, cut one. Big O, Reeves, Bruce. K's who you're starting.
Safety, you're starting Big O, I think.
Well, Bruce isn't playing round one, so nah. I think we can factor that out of the equation. And then you're benching
keeping Bruce.
and then cutting Reeves. I think I might start Bruce, bench Big O.
I think Reeves is the cut.
And then
though,
Reeves is the cut, yeah.
regardless.
Yep. Do you want to throw your way in there? You happy with that, Dossie?
No, yeah, happy with that, mate.
All right, cool. Wazzy Akram, last spot, Pedler versus Hayward. Who are you going with, Dossie?
Pedler's injured now.
Is he? Yeah, okay.
Last spot. Yeah, I don't think Pedler plays much.
I don't
this
think
year.
But long
Hayward's
term,
gonna
do you
give
think, Pedler had big junior fantasy numbers, so...
Yeah, but okay, if this is a stash, Pedler's got
But
way
for
more
this season,
upside.
Hayward?
Hayward,
Yeah,
easy.
happy with that.
Yeah.
At Sandgroper19, thoughts on which player will likely add back status reclass early in this season? Few players I have Pendles, Dacos, Ward, and McDonald. At
Josh Battle.
He's already got defender
got
status. Doesn't he have defender
He's a
status?
DP.
He's forward.
He's back forward, isn't he?
Back forward.
No, he's pure forward.
I think
in
Ultimate
AFL
Footy.
Ultimate Footy, he's
Footy,
back
maybe
forward.
AFL Fantasy Classic.
Geordie
he's pure
Clark's
forward.
another one. That'll get back status
Geordie
pretty
Clark will
early.
get it. Yep.
That's all I can think of off the top of my head without planning too
Josh
much.
Kennedy.
Josh Battle.
Josh Kennedy.
Josh Kennedy out of the midfield.
Yeah, he did play a bit on that halfback. I didn't mention it, but yeah.
Yep. All right. So there's a few for you if you're looking for a defender early. I think we need to wrap that up. I think we're over an hour and a half now. So let's get that done.
Pure gold.
Oh, yeah. Absolute quality content. Don't get me wrong. But some people need to get through this before they have their drafts on the weekend. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening this week. Make sure you still check out the Lipinski
Andy
video.
McGrath.
Yes.
Andy McGrath's one to go there as well. Good pick up, Dos. Make sure you watch the Lipinski video. I've still got that written here in the document. But, it's a good video despite him getting injured
He
on the
needs all
weekend.
your thoughts and prayers.
Yes, that'll get him over the line for round one. So just make sure all the view counts is basically Lipinski power. I think it powers him up. So just get the views up.
It's like Captain Planet power rings.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Just retweet it for us when he explodes on the first round.
Make sure that happens too. Yep, thank you. All right, get around us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at Keeper League Pod on all of those. Make sure you trim your balls with Manscaped and use Keeper20 to buy yourself a Lawnmower 4.0. Wear the or get yourself a t-shirt like Kaz is wearing tonight.
Get a lot. Get a size up.
Get one size up than usually wear. Anyways, thanks for listening to this Mammoth podcast, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.
Oh, that was loose, but funny.